Chapter 1. Key-Guided Arrow. They say the bow is a weapon capable of striking lives even beyond what the eyes can see. It moves faster than lightning, carries power like thunder, and pierces with the sharpness of a serpent's fangs. And if you think about it, what could be more terrifying than a weapon silently locking onto your life without you even seeing it? At the foothills of the Pale High Mountain, thick mist drifts through endless forests and jagged cliffs. Hidden within this quiet wilderness lies a small training ground. There, a young boy stands firmly with a bow in his hands. His posture is focused and steady as he pulls the bowstring back, aiming toward a wooden practice target planted in the ground. Behind him stands an elderly master with long white hair and a long flowing beard, carefully watching every movement the boy makes. The old master calmly begins explaining the basics. Archery is the discipline of launching an arrow with precision. The boy narrows his eyes and locks onto the target. Then, he releases the string. The bow snaps forward and the arrow shoots through the air like a streak of wind. And the next moment, it slams straight into the wooden target with a solid thud. The old master observes the result as the boy lifts his bow once again, preparing for another shot. Then he continues his instruction. What you just saw is the basic shooting technique used in standard archery. The training may look simple for now, but this is only the very first step toward mastering a far more dangerous skill.
The old master continues the lesson, his voice calm but firm as the boy listens carefully. When enemies surround you, or when time is running out, you don't always have the luxury to carefully aim your shot. Arrows suddenly burst forward through the air in rapid succession, cutting through the wind one after another. This technique is known as rapid fire, a form formed when an archer must shoot quickly in urgent situations. The arrows slam into the training target repeatedly, striking the surface with sharp impacts. But the old master isn't finished teaching. He steps closer and continues. The next level of archery is called multi-shot, a technique where several arrows are released at the same time. The boy watches attentively as the master explains further. An archer cannot truly call themselves skilled until they are capable of performing multi-shot. The old master calmly gathers arrows in his hand and knocks them onto the bowstring at once. Then he says, "You can release up to 3 arrows at the same time." With practiced precision, he pulls the bowstring back. In the next moment, 3 arrows explode forward together, racing through the air like streaks of steel. They shoot across the training ground, slicing through the wind. You can aim them at a single target or send them toward multiple targets at once. The arrows streak through the forest training range and slam forward with deadly accuracy. But then the old master lowers his bow slightly. There is still one final technique left to explain. Finally, there is something known as the key-guided arrow. At that exact moment, a rabbit suddenly bursts out from the bushes nearby, sprinting through the forest as leaves scatter behind it. The moment the rabbit dashes through the forest, the old master's eyes sharpen. Without hesitation, he pulls the bowstring back in one smooth motion and releases. The arrow explodes forward, slicing through the air with incredible speed, but instead of flying in a straight line, it suddenly curves through the forest, whipping around trees as if it were alive. The arrow twists around the thick trunk of a tree, chasing its target like a predator locked onto prey. A split second later, it strikes the fleeing rabbit instantly. The old master lowers his bow calmly and speaks. If swords can fly toward their target, then why can't an arrow do the same? Before the boy can even react, the master suddenly bursts into motion. He kicks off the ground and leaps high into the air, cloak and hair whipping wildly around him. Mid-air, he twists his body and flips with incredible agility, bow still firmly in his grasp. Then he spins and slams back down toward the ground with explosive force. In the same motion, arrows shoot upward into the sky like streaks of lightning. High above the forest, several birds are flying peacefully through the air. In an instant, the arrows pierce through them, one by one. The birds fall from the sky as the arrows find their marks with terrifying precision. The old master lands calmly as the wind settles around him. Then he declares proudly, "I call this technique the headhunter, a combination of them all." Behind him, the young boy watches in stunned silence, realizing that what he just witnessed is far beyond ordinary archery. The quiet forest returns to peace as the small hut near the mountain sits silently under the trees. Inside, the old master lies in a hammock, fast asleep. Zzz. A soft breeze passes through the trees. Suddenly, shoo, a leaf drifts down from above and lands right on his face. The old man's eyes snap open. Just then, a loud voice echoes from outside. "Grandfather! Grandfather!" The old master jolts awake with a startled gasp. Outside the hut, the boy runs toward him excitedly, while the old man lazily swings in the hammock. The old master looks over and asks, "What is it, boy?" The boy clenches his fist with excitement. "I'd like you to examine my archery. I've managed to overcome the wind." Before the old master can react, the boy suddenly smacks his head on a hanging wooden beam. Ouch! The old man immediately gets annoyed and yells at him. "Brat, you disturbed my meditation over such a silly reason?" He grumbles loudly while sitting up. "I was just about to grasp the key to flying, but you woke me up for this?" The boy rubs the back of his head awkwardly. "Ow." The old man sighs in frustration. "Ugh, ridiculous." Then he looks at the boy and scoffs. "You were even drooling. There's no way you were meditating." Suddenly, a stick smacks the boy on the head. "Ow!" The old man glares at him and snaps, "You're really asking for it, boy." But the boy quickly changes the topic. "So, you said you've overcome the wind?" The boy nods confidently and points toward a tree trunk nearby. "Yes, the wind's strong right now, so I'll shoot that trunk." The old master watches silently. Bim. Then he suddenly turns and begins walking away. "Hold on!" The boy looks confused as he stands there with his bow ready. Pew! The old master casually raises his hand and flicks a small stone toward a nearby rock. The stone strikes the surface, leaving a small mark. Then he calmly turns to the boy. "All right, shoot." The boy looks confused for a moment. "What?" Sweat runs down his face as he stares at the old man. Has he gone mad? I mean, senile? The old master raises an eyebrow. "What, not confident enough?" The boy quickly shakes his head and grips his bow tighter. "I can hit it, but please move away just in case." The old master smirks slightly. "Admit that you're not confident, aren't you, boy?" The boy hesitates and glances toward the rock. The target is small and grandfather is too big. The old master suddenly shouts at him, "Shoot! You've hit even smaller targets with the wind blowing." Taking a deep breath, the boy finally raises his bow. Sweat trickles down his cheek as he carefully pulls the bowstring back, focusing on the small mark on the rock. The forest grows quiet. Then, he suddenly lowers the bow. The old master's eyes widen. "Eh?" The old master suddenly explodes in frustration. "God darn it, you little brat! A man needs to have courage." Ch! At that exact moment, the boy comes running toward him. "Grandfather!" The old master straightens up, surprised. The boy rushes forward excitedly and shouts, "I found a wounded pigeon while I was coming down the mountains." The old man narrows his eyes slightly. "That right. Let me have a look." The boy happily runs closer, proudly presenting the bird. "This is a gift from the skies, so it's mine to eat." Before he can finish, the old master suddenly smacks him with a stick. "Eep!" The boy yelps in pain. "Why did you hit me?" The old man gestures towards the bird lying on the wooden stump. "Does this look like a mere pigeon to you?" The injured bird lies there, breathing weakly. The old master explains firmly. "This is a gerfalcon, a sacred animal that's known as the king of the skies." But the boy shrugs carelessly. "Gerfalcon or not, it's good grub as long as it's dead." The old man sighs deeply and looks at the bird again. Then he speaks with a serious tone. "This bird is a valiant and loyal falcon that'll follow its owner till its death once it finds one." The boy quietly listens now. The old master looks straight at him and asks a question. "Will you starve or save a life?" The boy blinks in confusion. "Huh? What do you mean?" The old master stares at the boy and sighs impatiently. "Are you deaf? I'm telling you to decide whether you'll starve for 2 weeks or save this gerfalcon." The boy looks down at the injured bird on the wooden table. "So, if I don't want to starve to death," the old master calmly replies, "you'll be able to save it if you try your best." After thinking for a moment, the boy begins working immediately. He crushes fresh herbs inside a bowl, grinding them carefully to make medicine. The old master explains while relaxing in his hammock nearby. Its wounds are deep in its wings, so applying an herb that can stop bleeding would be good. The boy carefully spreads the medicine onto the bird's injured wing. Nearby, a pot of herbal mixture slowly steams above a small fire. The old master continues giving instructions. "Herbal medicines are all about effort. Keep the heat low." Smoke drifts upward as the boy struggles to control the fire. He coughs from the smoke. Time passes. Finally, a powerful flap of wings echoes through the air. High above the forest, the falcon soars into the sky once again. The boy looks up in amazement. "Whoa! Grandfather, the bird's flying!" Both of them stare up at the sky as the falcon circles above. The boy grins widely. "You're so cool!" The falcon glides down and lands on the boy's arm, spreading its wings proudly. The boy laughs happily. Then he suddenly pauses and thinks, "Hold on, I should give you a name." He studies the falcon closely. "When I first saw you, you had blood running down your iron-like face, so—" The boy points excitedly at the bird. "Your surname will be Iron, and your name will be Blood. Iron Blood." He smiles brightly and asks, "What do you think? Sounds good, right? The falcon opens its beak and cries loudly in response. Chapter 2. The quiet forest cabin stands peacefully among tall trees as sunlight filters through the leaves. The old master looks at the boy and begins the next stage of training. Your archery is quite good now, so let's practice a different technique starting today. The boy tilts his head in confusion. A different technique? The old master calmly walks ahead and explains. Wolf steps, a movement technique passed down in our family. The boy listens carefully as they walk along the forest path. As the name suggests, it's a movement technique inspired by wolves. Curious, the boy asks, "Are there many different types of movement techniques?" The old master nods slightly. There's the defensive cloud step used by the Mudong faction, or the offensive frostbite step used by the Ami faction. They arrive at an open clearing in the forest. The old master turns to face the boy. Watch carefully. Suddenly, ha! The old man launches himself forward like a beast. His body shoots across the ground with explosive speed before slamming down directly in front of the boy, sending energy bursting outward. The boy freezes in surprise. The old master leans closer and says, "Did you see it? I'll do it a few more times, so pay attention." Then he begins moving again. Hap! 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 The old master leaps and lands again and again, his movements forming powerful arcs across the ground, like a wild predator bounding through the field. The boy watches in disbelief. He wants me to master that? Ridiculous! What kind of technique is that? He just looks like a frog jumping around. The old master stands proudly in the forest clearing and looks at the boy. Well, isn't it incredible? The boy immediately forces a big smile and raises both thumbs. Yes, it is. Inside his mind, however, he thinks nervously. If I said otherwise, he'd get upset and make me starve until I admit it is. The old master stares at him silently. Yes? Then he strokes his beard thoughtfully. Seems like you haven't grasped the practicality of this technique. Let me show you how good it is. He steps forward and lowers his stance. Watch very carefully. The boy lazily responds. Sure. Suddenly, ha! The old master launches into the air with explosive force and slams down toward the ground like a falling meteor. The impact sends a violent shockwave outward. The boy's eyes widen in pure shock. Electric? A terrifying aura erupts around the old master as dust and energy explode in every direction. For a brief moment, the boy sees something unbelievable. Behind the old master, the overwhelming presence of a gigantic wolf appears, growling fiercely as if it's about to devour everything in its path. The pressure is so intense that the boy freezes in place. His eyes tremble in disbelief as he realizes the terrifying power hidden behind what looked like simple jumping. The boy stands frozen in the clearing, his legs trembling. A small stream of liquid slowly runs down from his shoe onto the ground. The old master notices immediately and leans in close, yelling right into the boy's face. "Ch! Don't act cocky if you're such a coward. Come to your senses, brat." The boy stares back in stunned silence. The old master scoffs and shakes his head. "Wetting your pants at your age? What will you ever achieve if you're such a wimp?" The boy swallows hard, still shaken. "What was that?" The old master strokes his beard calmly. So you want to learn now, do you? The boy nods. Yes. The old master begins explaining. Wolf step doesn't only imitate a wolf's movements, but also its vigor. As he speaks, the image of a wolf chasing its prey appears in the boy's mind. When wolves hunt, they crush their prey's morale before attacking. The wolf closes in on the fleeing deer. They emit bloodlust, like what you felt just now. The bloodlust immobilizes the prey's movements. The wolf leaps forward viciously, and the wolf goes straight for the killing bite. The old master looks back at the boy. When I emitted just a slight amount of bloodlust towards you, you couldn't do anything. His voice turns cold. If this were a real fight, you'd already be dead. The boy stands there, still shaken, a drop of sweat sliding down his cheek. The old master looks at him calmly and asks, "What do you think was the distance between you and where I was standing earlier?" The boy thinks for a moment and answers, "I'd say about 30 feet. Suddenly, the boy's eyes widen in shock. "Huh?" He begins thinking to himself, "I was believing it to be because he looked like a frog, but he leaped such a long distance." The old master then says firmly, "Wolf step should be used defensively, not for offense." The boy blinks in confusion. "What?" The old master stares straight at him and continues, "You won't need to use movement techniques for offense." The boy scratches his head awkwardly. "Then only for running away?" The old master immediately snaps back, annoyed. "Ah, you fool! What is the weapon you use?" The boy lifts his bow slightly and replies, "A bow." The old master points at him and shouts, "What will you do by rushing at the enemy with a bow? Are you going to whack him with your bow or stab them with your arrows?" The boy fumbles for words. Well, the old master sighs and explains, "The bow is a long-ranged weapon." Then he spreads his arms dramatically while demonstrating. As you saw earlier, wolf step can shorten the distance between you and the target. Conversely, it can also increase said distance. His robes flutter as he moves quickly, illustrating how the technique can close the gap or widen it in an instant. The lesson becomes clear. Wolf step isn't meant for charging enemies, it's meant for controlling distance and keeping a ranged fighter alive. The old master looks at the boy and asks calmly, "If you chased your enemy while emitting bloodlust, they'd feel scared, right?" The boy nods. "Yes." The master continues explaining, "Wolf step is an effective technique for attacking while maintaining a safe distance." Then he casually asks, "Want me to demonstrate it again?" The boy instantly panics, waving his hands in front of him. That's okay." The old master ignores the reaction and continues his lecture. The Mudong faction and the Kunlun faction are constantly competing for the best agility techniques. He strokes his beard thoughtfully. It's hard to say which of Mudong's cloud climbing and Kunlun's cloud dragon glide is better. The boy looks curious and asks, "What about compared to wolf step?" Thwack! Before he can finish, the old master smacks him on the head. "Ouch!" The old master explodes in anger. "You foolish brat! You dare compare the one and only wolf step to those shoddy techniques? You little rascal!" The boy rubs his head painfully. How am I supposed to know? He only just started teaching." The old master raises a finger and says firmly, "To see is to believe. Watch carefully and follow my steps. Ingrain it into your body." Suddenly, whoosh! The old master begins moving. His body spins and glides across the ground in flowing motions, his robes swirling like a storm around him. Each step lands with explosive precision. Crack! The ground cracks beneath his foot as he accelerates, demonstrating the terrifying speed and power of wolf step. The old master suddenly leaps into motion. With a powerful jump, he spins through the air. his robes and hair whipping wildly as streams of force swirl around him. Each movement is swift and precise, like a storm cutting through the forest. The boy watches in awe. When the master finally stops, the ground is covered in footprints. The boy stares down in disbelief. Every time he takes a step, his footsteps are left behind. Looking closer, he realizes something even stranger. About 180 steps, all facing different directions. The old master calmly explains, "These footsteps have been arranged in the directions and sequence used by the wolf step." The boy studies the marks carefully. First go forward, then backwards, then left. He hesitates, trying to remember the order. The old master asks, "What came next?" The boy quickly tries to follow the footprints, but the moment he starts stepping, he spins awkwardly, stumbling between the prints as his body twists in the wrong directions. The old master immediately explodes in frustration. "You useless brat! All I asked is for you to follow the footsteps, so why are you struggling?" The boy sweats nervously while trying to remember. 3 to the right, left once, 3 to the... His balance completely collapses. Wobble. His arms flail wildly as he loses control. Flump. He falls flat on the ground. The old master stares at him in utter disbelief. "Goodness me! Do you not even know how to walk?" He looks completely baffled. "How the heck did you—" The lesson has barely begun, and already the boy has managed to turn a simple stepping exercise into total chaos. The boy continues practicing the complicated wolf step pattern, stumbling across the many footprints carved into the ground. His feet splash through dirt and shallow puddles as he struggles to follow the exact sequence. Watching him for a moment, the old master turns away and says casually, "I'm going to rest." Then he adds sternly over his shoulder, "You're not getting any food until you can do this, so practice well." Night falls. Under the bright full moon, the forest becomes quiet and silver with moonlight. But the boy hasn't stopped. Again and again he repeats the movements, jumping, stepping, twisting his body to follow the strange pattern of directions. His legs tremble, but he keeps going. From behind a nearby tree, the old master secretly peeks out, surprised. That silly boy, he's not even sleeping. The boy leaps again, his movements now smoother than before. Moonlight frames him as he rises into the air, following the pattern almost perfectly. Hours pass. Finally, dawn breaks. Sunlight streams through the trees. The boy lands after completing the sequence and shouts triumphantly, "All right, I did it!" The old master wakes up nearby, rubbing his eyes. When he hears the boy, he looks over and immediately starts yelling, "It took you a whole week to do it once?" He slams his staff down in frustration. "I pity my own life for teaching a fool like you. Gah!" Meanwhile, the boy bends forward, completely exhausted, breathing heavily. "Ha, ha." The old master clicks his tongue. "What's wrong with you? Tired just from that? Tuh!" But as he watches the boy catch his breath, the master's expression slowly changes. Inside his mind, he mutters in disbelief, "Incredible! Even his father, who was said to be a prodigy, took a whole month. And it took me a month and a half." He looks at the boy again, stunned. But he managed to do it in a week. Morning light filters through the forest as the exhausted boy kneels on the ground among the scattered footprints. The old master watches him and shakes his head. "Your inner ki needs to freely flow through your body, but look at you, getting tired so easily." Tch. The boy lowers his head slightly. "I'm sorry." The old master continues his lecture. Even if you've mastered the best mental cultivation method, that is, the Heart Sutra visualization, you also need to properly utilize it. The boy blinks in confusion. Huh? Heart Sutra visualization? Suddenly, the old master freezes. His eyes widen. Oops! Realizing what he just said, he coughs awkwardly and tries to play it off. The truth is, that's the technique I've been teaching you since you were a child. He strokes his beard, pretending everything is normal. To attain empty dharma, you need to be able to use Heart Sutra visualization. The boy looks down at himself, still confused. I guess it's difficult for me because my inner ki is so weak. The old master bursts into laughter. That's because I limited your inner ki. The moment the words leave his mouth, he suddenly covers his mouth in shock. Don't get too impatient. Oop! The boy slowly turns his head toward him. You limited my inner ki? The master quickly tries to backtrack. No, I mean, when you haven't attained the 10th level of Heart Sutra visualization, you can't produce a lot of inner ki. He continues explaining hurriedly. True power will be achieved once you go past the 10th level. Then he waves his hand dismissively. You are simply too unskilled as of now. Don't fret. The boy stares at him for a moment. Then he nods slowly. Oh, I see. But the awkward silence between them suggests the master may have just accidentally revealed a very big secret. The old master wipes the sweat from his forehead and sighs in relief. Whew, that was close. He glances toward the boy practicing nearby and thinks to himself, he reached the 3rd level quickly, so the limitation might release. I'd better keep watch over him tonight. Not far away, the boy continues practicing wolf step, hopping and twisting between the footprints he carved into the ground. Ha! Ha! Each step splashes through the shallow puddles as he repeats the movements again and again. Later, by a rushing stream deep in the forest, the sound of water crashes over rocks. The boy is now training in a different way. Standing in the cold river, he balances rocks on his shoulders and head while stretching his arms outward. More stones sit in his hands as he carefully raises one leg to maintain balance. His muscles tremble as the current pushes against him. A bird screeches overhead. Cree! The boy looks up for a moment, nearly losing his balance. On the riverbank nearby, the old master sits comfortably on a rock beside a small fire. Fish roast over the flames, while steam rises from a kettle. He shouts toward the boy without even looking up. Hey, I told you to keep it steady. Then he adds casually while tending the fire. You won't get to eat if your balance is so poor. The boy struggles desperately in the water, rocks wobbling as he tries not to drop them. Meanwhile, the master calmly drinks from his bottle and flips a roasting fish. The smell of cooked meat drifts through the air. The boy grits his teeth, his stomach growling. Damn it, this is so tiring. I didn't have breakfast, so the smell of meat, it's driving me crazy. The old master bites into the roasted fish and speaks calmly. Hang in there for another hour. You won't starve to death in that much time. He chews slowly and adds, endure. Then he explains the purpose of the brutal training. The purpose of this training is to solidify what you've learned so far and improve the flow of your ki. While the master relaxes beside the fire and eats, the boy continues trembling in the icy river, forced to balance stones, hunger, exhaustion, and the raging current all at once. Standing in the rushing river with stones piled on his head, shoulders, and hands, the boy struggles to keep his balance. The old master points upstream toward a large boulder sticking out of the water. You need to use a movement technique to reach the top of that boulder, no matter how long it takes." Then he adds calmly, "Your training ends when you get on that boulder." The boy's eyes twitch with frustration. I knew something was wrong. This isn't training, it's torture. Damn it. Just as he's trying to steady himself, the old master suddenly adds another rule. "Oh, I forgot to mention." The boy looks up nervously. The master continues while casually drinking from his bottle. "You mustn't go beyond 3 feet within an hour, nor can you stop the training. Understood?" The boy nearly loses his balance in shock. That's ridiculous. How can you move for an hour and stay within 30 feet? The old master glances back calmly. "By walking very slowly. Want me to show you?" Before the boy can answer, the master steps into the river. Balancing stones the same way, he begins moving forward, step by step, very slowly. The water ripples gently as his foot lands. Another careful step follows. The boy watches in disbelief. The master's movement is so slow it almost looks like he's barely moving at all. Yet he keeps perfect balance the entire time. Finally, the master stops and looks back. The boy stares at him, stunned. Whoa, that long to take a single step? For the first time, he realizes the true difficulty of the training isn't speed or strength, it's absolute control over every tiny movement of the body. The old master takes a sip from his bottle and glances toward the river. A sharp cree echoes as a hawk glides across the sky above them. Without even looking concerned, the master calls out, "Hey, your stones wobble. If they fall, you must start over from the beginning." In the middle of the rushing water, the boy suddenly loses his footing. Splash! Ooh! Oh! His arms flail wildly as the current shoves him sideways. The stones slide and shake on his shoulders and head. Bam! The river completely knocks him off balance. He crashes face first into the water. Splash! Water explodes around him as he tumbles under the current. For a moment, all that can be seen is white spray and bubbles. Then his head bursts back above the surface. Water pours down his face while his eyes twitch in shock. From the rocky riverbank, the master watches calmly while grilling food over a small fire. Smoke curls lazily into the air. He sighs. The water is too strong here. Then he shrugs. Well, there goes all your progress. The boy stares in disbelief from the river. The master casually adds, "Tss, tss. You could have had some well-cooked meat if you succeeded." Defeated, the boy drags himself back to the starting spot. He plants his feet in the water again. Gah! The master lowers a rope with stones tied to it. Clack, clack, clack. One by one, the stones are placed back onto the boy, on his shoulders, arms, and head. Silence fills the valley. The river keeps rushing. The sky slowly shifts as time passes. Clouds drift. The sun lowers toward the horizon. Yet the boy keeps trying. Arms stretched out, step, step. By sunset, his body trembles with exhaustion. Still, he lifts his foot again. Water splashes around his leg. Step. The orange sky glows behind him. Night falls. The moon rises high over the forest. The river shines silver under the moonlight. Yet the boy continues. His breathing grows heavy, but he doesn't stop. Another step, and another. At dawn, the sun rises again. A hawk circles above. The boy stands in the river, stones still balanced on his body. His face is hidden in shadow, but something about him has changed. The trembling is gone. The panic is gone. Now, He stands perfectly still. Standing on the large boulder in the middle of the river, the boy throws both fists into the air. "Grandfather, I did it!" Sunlight streams down through the trees, lighting the river as it rushes beneath him. For the first time since the training began, victory flashes across his face. Time passes. The seasons change. Leaves fall from the trees as autumn arrives, drifting quietly through the forest air. Deep within the woods, the old master walks ahead while the boy follows behind him. The master stops and glances back. "Try using the wolf step here." The boy's eyes sharpen instantly. Without hesitation, he moves. Whoosh! His body bursts forward through the forest. Feet barely touch the ground as he darts between the trees. Pa, pa, pa. Each step lands with precise control, his body twisting and sliding between the narrow gaps. Branches whip past him, leaves scatter. He zigzags through the forest at incredible speed, weaving between trunks so quickly that only streaks of motion remain. From behind, the old master quietly watches. The boy's figure flashes between trees again and again like a shadow. The wind from his movement rustles the forest. The old man narrows his eyes. If this is him with the wolf step limited, the day the limitation is released will be... He leaves the thought unfinished. Finally, he raises a hand. "That's enough. Good work, boy." The training, at least for now, is complete. The boy dashes across the forest floor with a burst of speed, sliding to a stop in front of the old master. Dirt sprays behind him from the sudden halt. He looks up, trying to hide his excitement. "A praise from grandfather?" He clenches his fist slightly. "Is my movement technique that great?" For a moment, the old master just stares at him. Then suddenly, "Ha ha ha! Oh, geez!" The old man bursts into laughter. The boy scratches the back of his head awkwardly, embarrassed. After the laughter fades, the boy's eyes light up with curiosity. "Grandfather, how do I move super quickly like you did the other day?" The old master calmly strokes his beard. "You'll be able to do that naturally during practical training." The boy freezes. "Ugh, more training?" The old man shrugs. "I'm not forcing you to learn." Immediately, the boy waves his hands with a nervous grin. "Oh no, I really like training." They continue walking deeper into the forest until they reach a rocky cliffside. A small wooden hut sits nearby, and beside it is a large stone cave sealed with heavy doors. The old master stops. "I'm going to stay here." He then points toward the cave entrance, "while you'll stay there." The boy blinks in confusion. The heavy cave doors swing open with a thunderous sound. Blinding light pours out from inside, casting the old master's silhouette across the ground. The boy squints, staring into the brightness. As his eyes adjust, the inside of the cave becomes visible, a huge tunnel stretching deep underground. "Whoa! I didn't know there was such a big cave." His voice echoes through the cavern. The old master steps forward calmly. "I'll do all the laundry, cooking, and everything, so you just need to live here." The boy's face lights up immediately. "Wow, really?" For a moment, it almost sounds like a reward, but then, from the darkness deep inside the cave, two red eyes appear. Low growling rumbles through the tunnel. The boy's face freezes, his body stiffens. Slowly he turns his head. Whoa! His eyes widen in pure terror. It's a wolf! He points at the darkness with a shaking hand. Behind him, the old master remains completely calm. "It'll be helping you train starting today. Get along." The boy's face lights up immediately. "Huh? But I can train alone." Before he can finish, bang! The massive cave doors slam shut. The boy whips around. The old master's dark silhouette stands on the other side of the glowing doorway as it closes. "Grandfather!" The light disappears, and now the boy is trapped inside the cave, alone with the wolf. The old master stands in the cave doorway, bright light pouring in from behind him. His voice is calm and firm. "You'll stay here. I'll give you food and water." Inside the dark cave, the boy stares at him in disbelief, panic rising in his chest. He quickly points behind him with a trembling hand. What about that wolf?" The master doesn't look worried at all. Instead, he raises his hand slightly. "The wolf might be scary and fast, but you have the wolf step, don't you?" His sharp eyes narrow. "You'll soon realize the difference between a real situation and practice." Before the boy can react, the old master suddenly flicks his fingers forward. Whip! A streak of blue energy shoots from his hand like a beam. Crash! The blast slams into the cave door mechanism, shattering the locking chains and metal pieces. Fragments explode outward. Inside the cave, the boy stares in shock. Ah! He immediately runs toward the door and slams his hand against it. Clunk! But the door doesn't open. His eyes widen. Uh-oh! The realization hits him all at once. He's locked inside. And somewhere in the darkness behind him, the wolf is still there. Chapter 4. Inside the cave, darkness swallows everything. The boy stretches his hand out in front of him, eyes wide with panic. "It's too dark. I can't see anything." He turns toward the heavy door and pounds on it with his fist. "Grandfather! Grandfather!" Outside, the old master stands silently before the sealed entrance. His expression is calm but firm. "It'll be difficult, but you must endure, for wolf step." Inside, the boy keeps shouting desperately, "Grandfather! Grandfather!" But the old man has already turned away. As he walks off, white flakes drift gently from the sky. He pauses and looks up. Oh, first snow of the year. Snow continues to fall quietly around the forest. Inside the cave, the boy slams both fists against the wooden door in frustration. "That damned geezer! All his training is ridiculous!" His voice echoes through the cavern. He clenches his fists tightly. "What am I supposed to train in here?" Then, suddenly, he freezes. A strange feeling creeps up his spine. His eyes shift nervously. Huh? Why do I feel something off? Like the geezer is watching me from behind. From the darkness behind him, two glowing red eyes appear. A wolf emerges from the misty shadows, its gaze locked on him. The boy's pupils shrink. Whoa! The real training has just begun. The boy presses his back against the cave wall, breathing hard. His eyes tremble as he stares into the darkness. Shit! When did it get so close? Panic takes over. He slams his fist against the door and shouts toward the outside. "Geezer, open the door! The door!" His voice cracks with fear. What kind of geezer feeds his only grandson to the wolves? Sweat runs down his face. His mind races. If I had my bow, this wouldn't even be a problem. Then he hears it. A low growl. Heavy breathing. The mist in the cave shifts as a massive shadow moves. The boy gulps. It's coming. From the fog, the wolf steps forward slowly, its red eyes glowing like embers. Saliva drips from its mouth. The chain around its neck rattles softly. Then suddenly, boom! The wolf launches forward like a missile. Its claws slam into the ground, sending rocks and dust flying as it lunges straight at him. The boy's heart nearly stops. He jumps sideways just in time as the beast crashes into the ground where he stood. Crack! Stone shatters under the impact. The wolf immediately pivots, snarling, its glowing eyes locking onto him again. The chain clinks as it prepares another attack. The boy grits his teeth. Fear floods his body. But in that moment, one thought cuts through the panic. Only wolf step can save me. The wolf leaps again, jaws wide open. The boy twists his body and kicks off the ground, using the movement technique his grandfather forced him to learn. His body slides past the wolf's charge by a hair's breadth. The beast's jaws snap shut with a vicious crunch, missing him by inches. Inside the cave, the deadly training has begun. Pressed against the cave wall, the boy watched the wolf circle him in the dim light. Its red eyes burned through the mist as it prepared to strike again. Suddenly, the beast lunged. Its massive body shot through the air, claws extended, aiming straight for him. Thud! The boy's foot slammed against the ground as he forced himself to move. Dust burst from beneath his step as he tried to activate the technique his grandfather had drilled into him. His breath trembled. Crap, I'm too slow. I need to use wolf step. The wolf landed and spun back toward him, its glowing eyes locked onto its prey. The boy's mind raced. An opening. I need to find an opening. Sweat ran down his face as he watched every twitch of the beast's muscles. The wolf crouched again, then charged. In that instant, the boy's eyes widened. There! He finally saw it, the briefest gap in the wolf's movement. But the beast was already upon him. The wolf's huge body crashed down, slamming into him and driving him to the ground with crushing force. A deafening impact echoed through the cave. The wolf loomed over him, jaws open wide, rows of razor-sharp teeth inches from his face. Its red eyes blazed with killing intent as it roared. Grah! The boy struggled beneath the monster's weight, barely managing to roll aside before the snapping jaws closed. The wolf landed beside him, growling deeply as dust swirled around them. Both of them rose again. The beast prowled forward, muscles tense. The boy steadied himself, breathing hard. The real fight had only just begun. The boy clenched his fist and grinned wildly, eyes blazing with adrenaline. "How's that, you wolf brat? Hurts, doesn't it?" he shouted, raising his arm in triumph. His grin widened into a fierce laugh. "I'll really get you if you dare come at me again! Ha ha!" Across the cave, the wolf stood in the mist, its glowing red eyes fixed on him. Blood dripped from its mouth as it growled low and threateningly. A single drop of liquid fell through the air. Drip. The moment shattered as it struck the ground. The boy's expression hardened. He quickly sat down, crossing his legs as he focused inward. "I got lucky there," he thought. "If I don't cultivate my stamina through ki concentration, I'll lose." Energy began to swirl around him as he steadied his breathing, forcing his body to recover. Suddenly, thud. A door somewhere in the cave opened, and bright light flooded inside. The boy turned his head. A voice echoed from outside. "Here's your dinner. Enjoy!" Something wrapped in straw flew through the doorway, spinning through the air before hitting the cave floor with a heavy thump. It rolled across the ground, but before the boy could reach it, the wolf dashed forward. In a blur of motion, the beast snatched the bundle in its jaws and bit down greedily. The boy froze on the ground, staring. The wolf tore into the food right in front of him, chewing loudly. The boy's face darkened with frustration as he watched the beast devour the meal meant for him. The wolf tore into the bundle greedily, straw scattering across the cave floor as it devoured the food meant for the boy. The boy glared at it with clenched teeth. Tastes good having it all alone, doesn't it, you little tramp? He snapped bitterly. Then he turned away with a frustrated scoff. Yeah, go ahead. Enjoy it all by yourself. His stomach growled painfully. Sitting cross-legged on the cold stone, he groaned and rubbed his belly. The hunger's driving me crazy. Days passed in the dark cave. The only thing he had consumed was the damp cave mist and a few drops of water falling from the ceiling. Looking up at a droplet glimmering above him, he muttered weakly, "The only things I've consumed these past 4 days have been this water." His body trembled from exhaustion, but his eyes slowly sharpened with determination. I need to be faster than that wolf if I want to survive. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Sleep tried to claim him, his eyelids drooping, but he forced himself to stay awake. I can't sleep. It'll eat me if I fall asleep. His head slowly sunk forward despite his efforts, fatigue overwhelming his body. In the darkness behind him, the wolf approached silently, red eyes glowing as it crept closer to its vulnerable prey. Just as it prepared to strike, the boy suddenly shouted, "Jump!" His body shot upward instantly, lifted by a burst of ki as he leapt into the air. He opened his eyes with a sly grin. "No you don't. Thought I was sleeping, huh?" Below him, the wolf snarled angrily, baring his fangs as its glowing eyes burned with rage, realizing it had been tricked. Light suddenly burst through the cave window as something flew inside at incredible speed. The boy reacted instantly. His body shot upward, moving with explosive force as beams of light streaked past him. In the next moment, he landed in the air, clutching a bundle of food tightly in his arms. Below him, the wolf looked up in shock. The boy grinned triumphantly and tore into the meat with hungry bites. "Ha ha ha! Your turn to starve this time." Outside the cave, the old man watched quietly. A satisfied smile formed on his face as he clenched his fist. Good, he's done it. Later, the boy stretched his arms high while sitting on the cave floor, looking refreshed. Behind him lay the wolf, completely subdued and tied up. "Phew, I slept well," he said with a satisfied grin. "Nice and warm, too. Ha ha." Suddenly, creak! The cave doors slowly opened. A tall silhouette appeared in the blinding light of the entrance. It was the old man. He stared down at the boy and shouted loudly, "Hey, greet your grandfather, brat!" The boy crossed his arms with a smug smile. "Huh, what kind of grandfather leaves his grandson in a wolf's den? Seriously?" The old man simply replied, "Brat, this is all part of your training." The boy's expression hardened as he looked up at him. "If I wasn't as good as I was, I would have been wolf-feed." The old man stared at the boy with a sharp glare, his brows twitching in annoyance. "Ugh, you fool. I knew you were more than capable of succeeding." Then he sighed and added, "And the fact is that you're alive. It was fruitful training, wasn't it?" The boy bent forward tiredly, brushing dust off himself. Whatever. The training's over, so I can leave now, right?" The old man's expression turned serious. "Over? It's only just begun." The boy froze. He glanced over at the wolf lying on the ground, tied up and defeated. With a smug look, he said, "I'm not even scared of something like that anymore. It's nowhere near my level." The old man narrowed his eyes at the boy's arrogance. "Goodness me, you're barely capable for your age." His voice grew heavier with disappointment. "And you've already become so cocky." The old man's voice echoed through the misty cave. "You've mastered wolf step." He continued calmly, "But you've only mastered the ki, not the psyche." Standing before the boy, the old man explained further. The psyche is the battle key that crushes your foe's morale, like I showed you before. He then gave his next command. You will cultivate that key by living with wolves. The old man's eyes sharpened as he looked down at him. You do not know true fear yet. His voice grew heavier. You can only attain battle key after enduring and overcoming it all. He stared straight at the boy. Do you understand what I'm saying? The boy answered firmly. Yes. The old man nodded slightly. You've become quite a bit better now, so you'll be able to handle young wolves, hmm? The boy replied without hesitation. Yes, sure. Then the old man revealed the real training. The number of wolves will increase by 1 every day for the next 100 days. The boy's eyes widened in shock. The old man continued coldly. I won't provide you with food either. You must secure it yourself. His gaze turned even harsher. Likewise, the wolves will do everything they can to devour you. The boy swallowed as the reality sank in. Looking ahead with tense determination, he muttered, So either I die or the wolves die. The old man extended his hand and handed the boy a short blade. Here, take this. The boy stared at it for a moment, then gripped the dagger tightly and pulled it free from its sheath. Moments later, the cave doors creaked open. From the darkness, a wolf slowly stepped inside, its red eyes glowing faintly. The old man's voice echoed from outside. Go ahead, enter. The boy stood quietly inside the cave, the dagger now secured at his waist. He stared at the wolf approaching him through the mist. That wolf has no hostility. It's docile right now, but his muscles remained tense. I'm not scared, but I can't relax. Days passed. More wolves began appearing in the cave, their shadows moving silently through the fog as they surrounded him. A drop of water fell from the cave ceiling. The boy watched the wolves carefully as they circled. Today is the 4th day. The starving hound's eyes are blood red. He tightened his grip on the dagger. My fatigue is more difficult to endure than my hunger. His breathing slowed as he forced himself to stay focused. Keep it together. I'll become the wolves' food with one misstep. The wolves bared their teeth, saliva dripping from their jaws as they growled, their glowing eyes locked onto him. The boy raised his dagger and glared back with cold determination. Come at me if you dare. With a ferocious snarl, the pack finally lunged toward him all at once. The wolves finally pounced, but instead of attacking him, the 3 beasts suddenly tore into the weakest wolf among them, ripping into its body as blood sprayed across the cave floor. The boy stood still, dagger in hand, watching the brutal scene unfold as the pack devoured their fallen companion. The 3 of them attacked the weakest wolf at once. A faint crunch echoed as he shifted his footing. Then something changed. Dark energy began rising from his body like smoke, swirling around him as the wolves continued feeding. His eyes sharpened. Is this the battle key he mentioned? A fierce grin spread across his face as excitement surged through his veins. Let me have some of that. He burst forward in a sudden dash, blade drawn. One wolf instantly reacted and leapt toward him, jaws wide open and fangs dripping. The boy's eyes widened. Yeah, it's fast. The wolf slammed into him mid-charge, sending him staggering as its claws tore past his guard. But instead of falling back, the The boy roared with wild determination. Ha! With a powerful swing, he slashed upward, launching the massive wolf into the air as the battle inside the cave finally erupted. Surrounded by wolves in the fog-filled cave, the boy steadied his breathing as 3 beasts circled him with glowing red eyes, their claws scraping against the stone floor. Suddenly, one of them lunged. A wolf dropped from above, claws raised to tear him apart. Whoa! These wolves are incredibly fast. The beast came crashing down toward him, but the boy moved first. His fist shot forward with brutal force. Gotcha! The punch slammed into the wolf's face mid-air, sending its massive body crashing violently into the ground. Thwump! Without hesitation, he drove his dagger down, stabbing into the wolf as it struggled beneath him. Blood splattered across his clothes. He looked up at the remaining wolves with wild eyes and a blood-stained grin. "Come get some if you want to die." The 2 wolves froze for a moment, growling low as they circled cautiously, their red eyes watching him carefully. The boy dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. Whew. Exhaustion weighed on his body, but he forced himself to keep moving. Grabbing the fallen wolf's leg, he began dragging the corpse across the cave floor. The sound of flesh scraping against stone echoed through the darkness as he pulled it aside, preparing himself for the next attack. Blood dripped from the boy's mouth as he forced the blade down, tearing into the wolf's flesh. He trembled, exhausted. His stomach churned violently, but he clenched his teeth and forced himself to continue. His eyes glowed with cold determination. "It smells terrible, but I need to eat to survive." In the dim cave, he tore pieces of meat from the wolf and ate while gripping his dagger, the metallic scent of blood thick in the air. Behind him, red eyes slowly appeared through the fog. More wolves had arrived. They watched him silently as he ate. Days continued to pass inside the cave. The boy observed the pack carefully. Since I kill 1 wolf every day, the number of wolves always stays at 4. The corpses never lasted long. The dead wolves are eaten by me and the other wolves. Whenever a body fell, the wolves immediately devoured it, their jaws ripping through flesh. Those moments were the only times the boy could lower his guard. The only time I can relax is when the wolves are eating or resting. The endless cycle of fighting, killing, and surviving continued. Standing alone in the mist-filled cave, his body now covered in scars and blood, the boy stared forward with hardened eyes. I've killed roughly 90 wolves. Despite the brutal ordeal, he was still alive. I survived, and my proficiency in wolf step has become impeccable. The countless battles had sharpened his body and instincts. But above all else, my biggest accomplishment is attaining extreme speeds. Like a flash of lightning, he burst forward, his body moving faster than before as he charged directly at another wolf, blade ready to strike. The boy's body blurred as he moved. If I approach the wolves at extreme speeds, they become immobilized from fear. In a flash, his blade cut across a wolf's body before it could even react. The beast growled in pain as it staggered back. Through the mist, 5 wolves stared at him with glowing red eyes. Those 5 wolves are the ones that survived through everything. He studied them carefully. Among them stood a larger, darker wolf, its gaze cold and commanding. Especially that red-eyed wolf. It became the pack leader of the den as soon as it entered. The boy narrowed his eyes. This will only be my win if I kill that extremely fast and deadly wolf. But the leader never attacked first. It always makes its underlings attack first. As if on cue, the wolves suddenly burst forward. The pack charged through the fog, claws tearing across the ground as they rushed toward him. The boy dashed straight into them. "No, you don't!" His blade flashed through the air, slashing across a lunging wolf and knocking it aside. But another wolf instantly leapt high above him, jaws wide open. Before he could fully react, the beast crashed into him, its fangs sinking toward his shoulder. The boy roared through clenched teeth. "Ha!" He twisted his body and slashed upward with all his strength, sending the massive wolf flipping through the air. But the battle was far from over. Another wolf slammed into him immediately after, tackling him to the ground as claws and fangs tore toward him in a brutal frenzy. Chapter 6. The wolf lunged forward with a furious snarl, but the boy struck first. His blade flashed across the beast's head as it roared, blood spraying through the mist. The wolf crashed toward him, fangs snapping. Without hesitation, the boy slammed his foot down on its skull, pinning it to the ground. "Hap!" The wolf snarled back. "Growl!" In the same instant, the boy drove his dagger straight down. The blade sank deep into the wolf's body. He twisted the knife and ripped it free, stepping back as the corpse collapsed at his feet. 2 wolves remained, growling cautiously as they faced him across the cave floor. The boy stood silently, breathing slowly, the dagger hanging in his hand. Then something began to change. A powerful aura erupted from his body, rising like smoke around him as his eyes glowed with fierce intensity. The wolves bared their teeth, blood dripping from their jaws as they stared him warily. Inside the boy's mind, a calm thought surfaced. "You were strong." He tightened his grip on the blade. "But I'm stronger." In a flash of motion, he launched himself into the air like a falling blade, descending toward the final wolf with unstoppable speed. With explosive speed, the boy slammed into the 2 remaining wolves. A thunderous impact shook the cave as both beasts were blasted away in opposite directions, their bodies crashing violently into the ground. Dust and debris filled the air. For a moment, everything went silent. The boy dropped to one knee, gripping his dagger as his chest heaved. Steam rose from his battered body as the corpses of the wolves lay scattered around him. He struggled to lift his head. "Phew, is it over now?" Outside the cave, a frantic voice suddenly echoed through the doors. "So Moon, are you all right? Why are you so quiet?" The old man slammed his fists against the wooden doors. "Answer if you're alive." Inside the cave, the boy slowly forced himself to stand. He muttered under his breath, exhausted. "That damned geezer. He shouldn't have brought in wolves if he's so worried about me." The old man shouted again from outside. "Grandfather, open the door!" With a loud creak, the heavy doors finally swung open. Light poured into the cave as the old man stepped inside. He froze the moment he saw the scene before him, the cave floor covered in the bodies of wolves, and standing in the middle of them, the boy. Tears welled up in the old man's eyes as his voice trembled. "Great work! You did it!" The boy stood silently among the aftermath, his torn clothes hanging from his battered body, while a heavy aura flowed around him like mist. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he answered calmly, "Yes." Later, outside the cave, snow rested quietly on the forest as the boy stepped out beside the old man. The cold air felt strangely peaceful after the brutal battle. A sharp cry suddenly echoed across the sky. "Cree!" The boy looked up and instantly recognized the bird circling above. His tired expression suddenly lit up with excitement. Ironblood, long time no see. Have you been?" He raised his hand toward the sky and called out eagerly, "Come over here." The bird swooped down toward him, but just before reaching his hand, it suddenly veered away and flew past him. The boy blinked in confusion. He turned his head, annoyed. "What's wrong with him? It's me. Did you already forget me?" The old man calmly watched the bird fly overhead and gave a simple explanation. "It's probably because of the bloodlust seeping out of you." The boy looked up again as the bird continued gliding through the sky. All he could do was stare. Wow. Then the old man glanced at the boy's battered body and spoke seriously. "Anyway, your wounds are quite severe. We'd better get them treated first." Days later, the quiet mountain cabin sat peacefully under the winter sky while smoke slowly drifted from the chimney. Outside, the old man crouched beside a small fire, carefully tending to a pot as flames crackled beneath it. Steam rose from the kettle as the herbal mixture boiled intensely. After a while, he poured the thick medicine into a bowl and squeezed the last drops from a cloth. Inside the cabin, the boy sat cross-legged on the wooden floor, his entire body wrapped in bandages from head to toe. Sunlight streamed through the window as he waited silently. The old man stepped in and handed him the bowl. "Here, drink this." Without hesitation, the boy grabbed the bowl and gulped it down in one go. After finishing, he wiped his mouth and sighed. Then he spoke casually. You said herbal medicines are all about effort, but I guess this lacked effort since I don't feel much better." The old man's face immediately twisted in disbelief. "Huh? Effort? Goodness me!" He exploded in anger. "I brewed that medicine for you out of pity, and you're saying I lacked effort?" In the next instant, the old man lunged forward with a furious punch. "Brat!" The boy quickly dodged as the fist swung past him. Grinning, he mocked him. "Wow, using your fists instead of effort, I see." The old man landed and crossed his arms angrily. "Is shamelessness all you've learned in that cave?" Insolent brat." The boy's expression finally turned serious. He looked down at the empty bowl beside him and asked quietly, "Anyways, is there some way to get rid of this bloodlust?" Then he added with concern, "It's already been 4 days since I left the cave, but Ironblood is still avoiding me." The old man scoffed and looked down at the boy with a faint smirk. Fool. You think that's such a simple task?" Then he continued calmly, "You went through all that effort to attain it. Why get rid of it? That'd be a waste." Before the boy could react, the old man suddenly moved. In an instant, he dashed forward with terrifying speed, his figure blurring as he appeared right in front of the boy. The boy barely flinched as the old man stopped inches away from his face. For a moment, the two stared at each other in silence. The boy's eyes sharpened, a dangerous aura rising around him. "Huh? Are you picking a fight with me?" A grin slowly spread across his face. "It'll be difficult. I'm quite strong now." Then he laughed wildly. "Ha ha 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 ha!" The old man's face stiffened slightly, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. "Ha! Incredible." I felt fear for a moment there. After a brief pause, he rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Seems like your wolf step is complete now." Then he nodded. "Good. In that case," his eyes sharpened, "now let's get rid of that bloodlust." The boy blinked in confusion. "Huh? You were just saying that it'd be a waste to get rid of it." The old man looked at him with clear disappointment. Did you even learn anything about ki?" The boy blinked in confusion, completely caught off guard. The old man sighed in frustration before raising his voice. You need to conserve your bloodlust and use it only when you need to." The boy's eyes widened slightly. The old man clicked his tongue in annoyance. What's the point of learning the wolf step when you're this stupid?" Psst. Not long after, the two of them stood before a roaring waterfall deep in the mountains. Water thundered down the rocks, crashing violently into the pool below. The old man pointed forward with his staff. "Cultivate your inner ki here." The boy looked at the freezing water with disbelief. "It's still cold outside. Do I really need to do it under a waterfall?" The old man calmly explained, "If you cultivate the Heart Sutra visualization under the waterfall, your bloodlust will naturally disappear." The boy stared at the falling water for a moment. Then, without another word, he stepped forward. Moments later, his silhouette appeared beneath the crashing waterfall. Water pounded relentlessly over his body as he sat cross-legged, unmoving. With his eyes closed and arms resting calmly, he began to meditate. And under the endless roar of the waterfall, the boy started cultivating his inner ki. Under the roaring waterfall, the boy sat cross-legged on a slick stone as freezing water crashed down on his body without mercy. The force of the current battered his shoulders and head. His teeth clenched as his body trembled violently. Gush, gush. His vision blurred as the cold seeped deep into his bones. From the riverbank, the old man shouted angrily, "Brat, do you want to freeze to death? Snap out of it and concentrate your ki." He shivered uncontrollably, his breath coming out in shaky gasps. Brr. Through the curtain of water, he could barely see the old man's silhouette standing in the distance. The old man's voice rang out again, firm and commanding. "Listen carefully. You have never truly mastered the way of using the Heart Sutra visualization." The waterfall thundered louder as the old man continued instructing him. "But you should have realized how to control the flow of ki by learning wolf step. Don't try to force the ki to move, but let it follow its flow instead." The boy struggled to breathe under the crushing water pressure. The old man raised his voice once more. "Completely entrust yourself to the power of the Heart Sutra visualization. It's more than capable of protecting your body." The freezing water felt like knives cutting through his skin. His body trembled harder. Inside his mind, panic crept in. "It feels like even my bones are freezing, and my head is about to break." His thoughts grew darker. "I'm going to die." Everything went silent for a moment. Then, suddenly, his eyes shot open wide. The boy's eyes widened beneath the crushing waterfall as a strange realization struck him. "What's this? The cold sensation is disappearing." The freezing pain that had been piercing his body moments ago began fading. His mind raced. An illusion created by the Heart Sutra visualization? Water streamed down his face as he steadied his breathing, forcing himself to stay calm despite the roaring current. He slowly lifted his head toward the fallen water. "Then I'll try raising my ki." His body remained seated under the merciless cascade as he attempted to circulate the energy within him. For a moment, it worked. The flow of ki surged through his body like invisible currents wrapping around him. But suddenly, hup! His eyes shot open. The cold came crashing back all at once. His teeth clenched violently as his body trembled uncontrollably. Shit, cold again! His muscles shook as the freezing water stabbed into him again and again. On the riverbank, the old man's face twisted in shock. His grip tightened around his staff. Darn, he made a huge mistake. The old man leaned forward, shouting with urgency, "Fool! Concentrate! Trust in the Heart Sutra visualization!" His voice thundered with warning. "Your father also fell ill to cultivation hysteria while trying to control his bloodlust." Under the crushing waterfall, the boy's body buckled forward. Grrr! His hands slammed against the rock beneath him as he struggled to stay upright. The raging water poured over his back as his body trembled on the brink of collapse. Then his expression hardened. His glowing eyes burned with stubborn determination. "Damn it all! If I die, I die!" Violent currents of energy suddenly burst from his body, twisting around him like wild serpents. From the riverbank, the old man's eyes widened in alarm. "Huh?" Under the crushing waterfall, the boy's body suddenly steadied. Two blazing streams of energy rose beside him like flames as the ki inside his body finally aligned. The raging water no longer shook him. His breathing slowed. His mind cleared. A faint smile appeared on his lips. "Gotcha!" From the riverbank, the old man watched the scene with tense eyes, before finally letting out a deep breath. Phew. The waterfall continued roaring as the boy stepped out of the freezing pool, water dripping from his body. He looked up excitedly toward the old man. "Grandfather, the water doesn't even feel cold anymore." Before he could celebrate, the old man's staff slammed down on his head. "You brat!" "Ouch!" The boy grabbed his head in pain. "Why'd you hit me?" The old man pointed at him furiously, beard shaking with anger. "Why? Didn't I tell you to entrust yourself to the flow of ki?" He raised his staff again and smacked him repeatedly. "I nearly lost my only grandson just now." The boy tried to shield his head, stumbling back. "Ow! Stop beating your only grandson to death!" The old man snorted coldly. "Fool, my beatings are medicine." The boy immediately turned and bolted away across the rocks. "Huh, I don't want a medicine like that." The old man chased after him, staff raised as the two ran along the riverbank. Later that night, deep in the forest, a small, worn-out hut stood quietly beneath the stars. Inside, the two sat across from each other on the wooden floor, with a single candle burning between them. The old man began explaining calmly. The Heart Sutra visualization was created by the Zen sect's sixth ancestry, the Hu-Neng patriarch. The boy listened carefully. The old man continued. This technique wasn't created for warriors, but for weak monks. The old man sat calmly in the dimly lit hut, the candle between them flickering as he continued his explanation. His eyes were steady as he spoke. The shocking part is that the ordinary monk who practiced the Heart Sutra visualization all his life, he paused slightly, turned out to be incredibly powerful when he accidentally used it for battle. The boy blinked in surprise, clearly confused. That's very odd, becoming so powerful just from reading texts and practicing a breathing technique all your life? The old man said nothing for a moment. Outside, the next day arrived beneath a clear blue sky. The waterfall roared once again as the boy sat beneath it, legs crossed, water crashing down over his body. His breathing slowed as he sank into deep concentration. The old man's words echoed in his mind. The Heart Sutra visualization is a technique that is built upon the foundations of completely emptying your mind. The old man's stern voice continued in memory. That is why warriors are never able to attain it, since their avarice for power is too much. Under the waterfall, the boy kept his eyes closed, letting the water pour endlessly over his body. His breathing remained calm. Then the old man's explanation continued. Since the only thing the monks sought was the absolute truth, their mind was completely empty. His voice grew more intense. That is why they were able to reach great heights despite not trying so hard. Suddenly, a surge of energy erupted from the boy's body. White lightning-like currents exploded outward as his ki expanded violently around him. Water scattered in every direction as the power around him intensified. The old man's final words echoed within his mind. The reason why I made you practice the Heart Sutra visualization from a young age is because I wanted you to attain it before you came to learn of the world. The old man's words echoed inside the boy's mind like a command carved into his soul. You can only attain it if your mind is completely empty. Throw away any worldly thoughts you have. Under the roaring waterfall, the boy sat perfectly still on the stone. Water crashed endlessly over his body, but his breathing remained calm. The river roared, the forest swayed, yet inside his mind there was only silence. Suddenly, a surge of power erupted. Blue lightning-like currents burst from his body, spiraling around him like living energy. The waterfall trembled as the ki expanded outward. From the riverbank, the old man stared in disbelief as the energy spread across the entire waterfall. His eyes widened. That's the triple apex flowers? His voice trembled with shock. The greatest height of power you can reach when you break through the gates of life and death. The old man staggered forward, staring at the boy surrounded by violent ki. So Moon has already... Then another terrifying thought struck him. His eyes widened even further. Wait, could he also attain the 5 ki awakening? At that exact moment, the boy's eyes snapped open. They glowed with an intense red light as raw energy exploded outward. Lightning crackled violently around him. The water beneath him erupted upward as if the river itself was being pushed away. A massive burst of power surged through the waterfall. The old man stood frozen, staring at the unbelievable sight. His entire body trembled with excitement. Has he also unlocked all the thin veins in his body? Then suddenly, the old man threw his head back and burst into wild laughter. Ha 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 ha! Tears streamed down the old man's wrinkled face as he stared toward the waterfall, his beard trembling. His voice was soft, filled with emotion. I have no regrets anymore. Sometime later, the two walked together along a quiet forest path. The old man leaned on his staff as he spoke calmly. I was planning proper training after you gained enlightenment under the waterfall. He paused briefly. But it seems that will no longer be necessary. The boy turned toward him in confusion. Huh? Did I do something wrong? The old man suddenly burst into laughter. What I mean is that there is nothing for me to teach you anymore. The boy blinked in surprise. Huh? Still confused, he asked again. What do you mean? The old man looked at him seriously. I saw you attain the triple apex flowers and the 5 ki awakening earlier at the waterfall. He then asked carefully, What did you feel? Tell me what happened back then. The boy scratched his head, trying to remember. Well, my heart hurt and I felt sick in the beginning, he continued honestly, but at some point it suddenly cleared up and I felt really good. The old man nodded slowly. That means you've unlocked both the gates of life and death, as well as the Ren and Du vessels. The boy stared at him blankly. The old man chuckled. They're difficult to accomplish even if you train your entire life. The boy's eyes lit up with hope. So it's a good thing, right? The old man smiled proudly. Good doesn't even begin to describe it. He raised his staff slightly as they continued walking. It would be called a miracle by those who cultivate ki. The boy's body trembled with excitement as he walked beside him. Ooh! The next moment marked the beginning of a new chapter. Above the forest path, a hawk soared through the sky as the old master and the boy continued walking beneath the trees. Suddenly, the boy raised his fist excitedly and shouted toward the sky, "Ironblood, come here!" The hawk immediately swooped down, flapping its wings as it descended toward him. The boy grinned brightly as the bird landed on his raised arm. Laughing, he spoke to it. "Ha ha! You've been avoiding me for a while. Are we good now?" The hawk settled calmly on his arm while he turned toward the old man. "Grandfather, it seems like my bloodlust is gone now." The old master nodded, observing him carefully. "You've unlocked the gates of life and death and needle veins," he continued calmly, "so naturally your bloodlust has been taken care of." Then the old man suddenly frowned, stroking his beard. How very strange. The boy tilted his head in confusion while gently petting the hawk. "Huh? What is?" Without warning, the old man smacked the top of his head with his knuckles. "You're as dumb as a rock!" The old man stroked his beard thoughtfully while looking at the boy and the hawk. "So how did you manage all that?" The hawk flapped its wings beside them. "Cree! Cree!" Then the story shifted to something deeper, a hidden past. The family's secret. Snow fell heavily across towering mountains as a figure plunged down through the storm. The young archer gripped his bow tightly as wind and snow exploded around him. With explosive force, arrows shot out. They tore through the storm like lightning. Birds scattered through the sky. Pick, pick. Then a powerful bolt of energy erupted toward the mountain peak. Quang! Lightning-like force split the air as the arrow surged upward. The next instant, the arrows struck their targets. Two fish hanging in the icy air were pierced cleanly by the arrows as electricity crackled around them. Far away in the forest, a quiet cabin stood under the dark sky. A calm voice explained the lesson. "You've overcome wind and moving targets, so it looks like you've learned the basics of archery." The boy frowned, clearly annoyed. Basics? Inside the small cabin, the boy sat proudly across from the old man and declared with confidence, "Grandfather, I'm a first-class archer that never misses a shot." He quickly demonstrated with playful flair, shaping his fingers like a bow and aiming forward. "Even if I shoot while using wolf's step, I never miss." Then he raised 3 fingers with a serious expression. "Even my multi-shots with 3 arrows don't miss." Before he could boast any further, the old man suddenly smacked him on the head. "Brat, don't get cocky." "It's a fact, so how am I being cocky?" The old man sighed and spoke calmly. "You could say ki-guided arrow is the creme de la creme of archery." The boy blinked in confusion. "What?" He tilted his head while thinking. "I've heard of ki-guided sword, but—" He tried to imagine it, twisting his arm as if mimicking an arrow changing direction. "Shh, shh. I don't get how an arrow could chase after someone like a snake." The old man's eyes sharpened. If swords can be guided by ki, so can arrows. Then he asked a strange question. "Can you hunt without arrows?" The boy immediately panicked. "Huh? That's impossible." The old man's voice turned serious. "Formless firing is the peak of archery." The boy stared at him with determination. "If that's possible, please show me." The old man slowly raised both hands and shook his head. "The apex hunting technique is my limit." Then he revealed something surprising. But there was someone who reached the peak of archery among our ancestors. The boy frowned skeptically to himself. Drawing a bow without arrows will only produce sound with the bowstring. The old man suddenly changed the topic. "How old are you now?" The boy answered calmly, 17. The old man looked at the boy calmly and said, "Since you're able to use wolf step and multi-shot, you're done with apex hunting technique." Beyond their small home, vast mountains stretched into the distance, hidden under drifting fog. Then the old man revealed something important. "When the sun is up, head to our family's patriarch village, the Divine River Hidden Village." His voice carried the weight of generations. The secrets to the art of Wu Wei and triple unity sword style left by our 17th ancestor are there. He placed an old book on the floor. "This is the ultimate guide to inner key cultivation written by our ancestors." The boy picked up the book carefully. On the cover were the words, "Path to Wu Wei." Later, standing on a cliff overlooking a vast lake surrounded by mountains, the boy looked toward the horizon. With determination in his voice, he spoke to the unseen spirits of his lineage. "My ancestors, it is I, your descendant, Ulji So Moon." Then he bowed deeply. "I intend to fulfill the family's goal of attaining ultimate strength, so please lend me your guidance." Mist rolled through the towering cliffs. Suddenly, electricity! The boy stepped toward the edge of the cliff, staring down at the dizzying height below. Shivering slightly, he muttered, "Whoa, this height is giving me shivers." But his hesitation lasted only a moment. "Jump!" Without looking back, he leaped. Grabbing onto hanging vines, he swung down the sheer cliff face with incredible agility. Wind howled around him as he descended rapidly. Tap! His foot struck the rock wall as he used the momentum to propel himself further down the mountain, disappearing into the thick mist below. Gripping the vines tightly, the boy descended the cliff face with swift, practiced movements. The wind roared past him as his feet tapped against the rock wall, guiding his fall with precise control. Suddenly, his eyes caught something carved into the stone. Ji Wen. Before he could think further, he swung into a hidden opening in the cliff and dropped inside the cave. Drop. His feet touched the ground lightly as dust scattered beneath him. He took a step forward. Step. Then his expression hardened. There's something here." A chilling pressure suddenly surged through the cave. The boy stiffened as a violent aura rushed toward him. "Whoa! Bloodlust!" The invisible force wrapped around him like living snakes, coiling through the air. He turned sharply, scanning the darkness. "Shit, what is this? A wild animal?" His eyes sharpened with determination. "All right, let's see who wins." He stepped forward, pushing against the swirling pressure. The invisible bloodlust slashed toward him again and again, filling the cave. He gritted his teeth. "Gah, that's some incredible bloodlust." The pressure kept intensifying, crushing down on him. "Darn it, if I can't beat them in bloodlust, then—" Suddenly, heat began to rise from his body. A red aura flared around him as his energy surged outward. As I thought, the bloodlust disappeared with the Heart Sutra visualization. The power flowing through him felt completely different. He clenched his fists, flames of energy swirling around his arms. It really does make a huge difference. Just as he began to push forward, his eyes widened. 11. A blinding golden light burst from deeper within the cave. He raised his arm in shock. Whoa, what is this abundance of ki energy? The overwhelming force slammed into him like a storm. Gah, I won't lose to this." But the pressure was relentless. The energy currents crashed into him from every direction. He struggled desperately. "Damn, I can't even take a single step forward." The force finally threw him down to the ground. Breathing heavily, he looked toward the blazing light. Is this the limit of my strength? Then, suddenly, his eyes widened again. That's... The overwhelming pressure finally eased, and the boy stared ahead with wide, trembling eyes, sweat running down his cheek. How? This is ridiculous. In front of him, 3 ancient drawings hung on the cave wall, their worn surfaces glowing faintly through the mist, each one radiating an eerie, powerful aura. He narrowed his eyes, sensing the source of the power. Strange. That key was definitely coming from this drawing. His gaze dropped to the ground where a wooden chest rested quietly beneath the scrolls. He stepped closer. His foot stopped right in front of it. For a moment, he simply stared. Then realization struck him. Is this it? The secrets of the family? He crouched down and opened the chest. Inside, lying neatly within the wooden box, was a sealed bundle. But something else caught his attention. A curved object rested beside it. Curiously, he reached inside and grabbed it. The moment he lifted it, his eyes widened in shock. Whoa, this is heavy. He examined the object in disbelief. It's only about 2 feet long, but seems to weigh at least 100 pounds. Still kneeling beside the open chest, he slowly reached toward the sealed document resting inside. His hand hovered over it. Then finally, he grabbed the envelope. He sat down beside the chest, the cave still filled with drifting mist, and opened the book. Flick. His eyes scanned the first page carefully. I am Lee Jin-hook. I loved the blade more than the bow. He continued reading, curiosity growing. I am already in my 40s, too old to learn the blade. The boy's gaze remained fixed on the text as the words of the unknown master unfolded. As they say, just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you'll be good at others. Since I was already proficient in archery, I didn't give it up. He turned another page. Flick. The writing grew more intense, almost proud. 20 years after learning the blade, I have finally created the triple unity sword style. The boy leaned closer to the book as he read the bold claim. Though it is only a triple unity sword style, I believe it is the strongest sword style of them all. He blinked, surprised, then muttered aloud, "Wow, he was one egotistical guy." But the next lines immediately caught his attention. But there is one huge flaw with this sword style. His expression shifted. A flaw. He read on as the image of the swordsman in the text appeared before him. If your inner ki is weak, you will faint from using up all your ki in just a single battle. If your ki is weak, it'd be more difficult to learn it than any ordinary sword style. The swordsman's explanation continued. That is why I have decided to create a cultivation method to attain the ki necessary. The boy stared at the pages silently, realizing that what he held in his hands might be far more valuable than he first thought. The pages continued, revealing the image of the old swordsman sitting cross-legged, his aura flowing calmly around him. Concentrating your breath is the foundation of all ki cultivation methods. The story shifted to the end of his life. Standing at the entrance of a cave, the old master looked out at the setting sun stretching across the mountains. I've got a long way to go, but the sun is already setting. His expression grew tired, almost resigned. I don't have much time left, so why am I so fixated on this? His gaze hardened as he muttered to himself, "Everything turns to void once I die anyway." The old swordsman exhaled slowly. "Phew, I'll forget about it all and just wait for death to come." But suddenly, his eyes widened in shock. "Whoa!" In that moment, something changed inside him. A realization struck like lightning. "In that moment, I gave up on everything. I came to a realization." The words grew intense across the page. Wu-wee, following the laws of nature and being released from worldly desires. The concept echoed through the writings. Wu-wee is the path to realization. The final declaration filled the page. "I'll leave the name of the Triple Union sword style to my successors. This inner cultivation method will be named the Art of Wu-wee." Back in the cave, the boy stared at the book with wide eyes, stunned by what he had just read. "Wow! My ancestor invented the art of Wu-wee in his 70s before he met his fate." His voice filled with excitement. "Amazing!" He flipped to the next page. Flap. His eyes narrowed immediately. "What's this? The handwriting is different." He began reading the new entry carefully. "I am Ulji Mugiak. Unlike my grandfather, I do not like the blade." The boy blinked in surprise. "Huh? Then is this my 15th ancestor?" He scratched his head slightly, confused. "Weird." He kept reading, the fog drifting quietly around him. "Grandfather told me it was the first since the 17th, but I guess not." The words continued, revealing the pride of the writer. "My grandfather prides himself in becoming the best without the wu-wei art or the sword, but through pure archery." He turned another page. Flick. The next lines described the martial path of the ancestor. "My martial art was controlling arrows using ki, the ki guidance arrow." The boy's eyes widened slightly. "My ki's capacity is already equivalent to 180 years' worth, so I am confident." He leaned forward with curiosity growing. The ancestor continued. "Let's compare my martial art and my ancestor's triple unity sword style." The scene in the writings shifted to the image of the ancestor gripping his sword ready to demonstrate the technique. The swordsman moved with powerful precision, swinging his blade through the air. A sharp flash burst from the sword strike. Then, with a roar, he raised the blade high above his head and brought it down with overwhelming force. The ancestor in the record gripped his sword tightly and unleashed the technique. His blade flashed forward with terrifying speed, slicing through the air. A second strike followed instantly, the force spiraling outward like a storm. The ground exploded beneath the impact as the power of the sword style erupted. But the swordsman dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. His eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible! I can't even overcome a single one of my ancestors' triple unity." The realization hit him hard. The writing continued across the page. "This sword style has transcended swordsmanship itself. It's divine." His expression turned serious as he acknowledged the truth. This much power and only 3 unities? Incredible. After a moment of silence, he made his decision. "I have decided to name this sword style the Peerless Triple Unity Blade." He rested his hand near the sword, flickers of pride in his eyes. "It joys me even though I lost, since it's our family's martial art." But then his gaze shifted forward with renewed determination. "But since I like the bow more than the blade, I'll make an archery art that will surpass the ki-guided arrow." His ambition grew even greater. "My ancestor has created the ultimate sword style, so I'll create the ultimate archery art." The words on the page continued, revealing the conclusion of the ancestor's efforts. After much hard work, I have managed to create the ultimate archery art." The next line burst across the page with overwhelming emphasis. The name is Formless Firing. The scene in the writings shifted to the ancestor standing before a massive mountain cliff, bow in hand. The explanation followed. As the name suggests, this archery art is a technique where arrows are unnecessary. The ancestor raised his hand and drew the bowstring, but there was no arrow. Ding! Yet the moment he released the string, invisible power burst forward. A shockwave tore through the air like a fired arrow. The invisible projectile streaked toward the cliff with terrifying speed. The text continued describing the technique. Like materializing a sword with ki, formless firing is an art that materializes arrows with ki. A blazing beam of condensed energy slammed into the rock face. Lightning-like cracks spread across the cliff. Then, a massive explosion erupted. The mountain shattered as the energy detonated. Rocks burst outward with thunderous force. Dust and debris filled the sky. When the smoke cleared, the ancestor stood calmly with his bow in hand. Back in the cave, the boy stared at the book in shock, a bead of sweat sliding down his face. "Impossible!" His voice trembled slightly. "Grandfather was telling the truth." He quietly turned another page. Flick. His eyes moved across the next lines of the book. Though a blade is limited in range, formless firing can slay targets far away. The writing continued confidently. "I dare say formless firing is the greatest technique in archery." He flipped another page. Flick. But the tone of the writing suddenly shifted. However, not even formless firing could overcome the peerless triple blade. The explanation followed carefully. "Though I managed to pierce the scroll with formless firing, it was only possible because it was an illustration. If it were a real person, I couldn't have won." The boy slowly lowered the book for a moment. A bead of sweat ran down his cheek. Gulp. He turned his head and looked toward the cave wall where the 3 ancient drawings hung in the mist. Realization spread across his face. So that's the peerless triple unity blade, a combination of all 3. His eyes narrowed as everything finally made sense. I knew they weren't ordinary drawings. It's no wonder I was defeated. He stared at the burned hole in the middle scroll. Then he spoke quietly. That hole was probably made by formless firing. He looked toward the scrolls again, determination forming in his eyes. "Will my inner ki and apex hunting technique be enough?" His hand reached down and grabbed the strange bow he had taken from the chest. The moment he lifted it, the weight pulled at his arm. His eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "I'm sure this thing has something to do with it." The bow felt incredibly heavy in his grip. Then the explanation from the book echoed in his mind. A regular bow can't withstand the ki of formless firing. He raised the bow and slowly pulled the string. Twang! The weapon trembled violently in his hands. Tremble, tremble. The words from the manuscript continued. "So I have left behind a bow that can, made of pure iron, weighing over 100 pounds. The boy lowered the bow and sat down in the center of the cave. Behind him, the 3 ancient scrolls hung silently in the mist. He closed his eyes and crossed his legs. Time passed. Days passed. Finally, his voice broke the silence. "It's been 10 days since I've learned the path to Wu Wei." A soft blue aura began circling his body as energy gathered inside him. "I've gathered and combined all my ki to the core." The energy flowed deeper into his body, spiraling into a single point. His breathing slowed. His mind became still. "2 different ki are in my core right now, propelling powerfully. Energy swirled violently around him as he continued meditating. A combination of the ki produced by Heart Sutra visualization and the path to Wu Wei. The two forces flowed through his body like currents of a raging river. The path to Wu Wei really is no joke. Its strength is equal to Heart Sutra visualization after only 10 days. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. Energy surged wildly inside him as sweat ran down his face. The blue aura around him began shaking uncontrollably. His breathing grew heavy. Crap, the two ki are clashing into each other. Behind him, the energies manifested into two violent spirals, one blue, one red, crashing against each other like storms colliding. His body trembled as the pressure inside his core intensified. He gritted his teeth. I need to decide now whether to stop or continue the training. For a moment, the memory of the old master surfaced in his mind. The warning echoed in his ears. Many of your ancestors continued their training there and became crippled. The old man's voice grew stern. If you feel your ki colliding, you need to give up while you still can. The boy's face tightened as he struggled to keep control. Sweat dripped from his chin. Fear crept into his thoughts. What do I do? His fists clenched. Then his voice hardened with determination. I don't want to give up. His eyes suddenly ignited with a blazing red glow. Yeah, I'll trust in the Heart Sutra visualization. The energy around him roared. Let's go! He focused his mind and forced the raging energy to move. Circulate the path to Wu Wei. Instantly, the two violent forces surged through his body like lightning. His hair whipped wildly as power erupted from his core. Lightning cracked across the cave as red and blue energy spiraled violently around him. The ground shook. The cave filled with thunderous energy as he screamed, forcing the two clashing ki to merge through sheer will. His body convulsed as the violent energy tore through him. His teeth clenched, eyes blazing red as the power surged uncontrollably. The pressure inside him kept rising. It feels like my body is going to explode. He threw his head back and groaned in agony. Gah! The energy ripped through his meridians like lightning. Pain spread across his entire body. His face twisted with regret. Shit! That was a dumb idea. This is bad. For a moment, doubt crept in. His breathing became ragged as the two forces continued tearing at each other inside his core. Then he slowly tilted his head back, accepting the risk he had taken. Well, my life is already on the line now, so might as well. He focused his mind again. The Heart Sutra visualization activated. Ancient characters began swirling around him like sacred seals, forming a storm of glowing symbols. The raging energies slowly began to bend to his will. The red and blue currents twisted together, circling his body like a vortex. The violent storm gradually calmed. The cave filled with mist as the energy stabilized. Finally, the aura settled. He stood there quietly, red traces of energy still flickering around him. His expression turned calm again. He exhaled slowly. Whew, I did it. Sweat rolled down his cheek as he reflected on what had just happened. If the two ki repelled one another, I wouldn't have survived, as expected of Heart Sutra visualization. He rubbed the side of his head, still feeling the lingering energy flowing inside him. It's even able to fuse with other ki. Then he looked forward with a small, satisfied smile. Guess that's the end of the path to Wu Wei.
Suddenly, something strange happens. The boy's body begins to rise into the air, not because he jumped, not because of any technique, but simply because he thought about standing up. For a moment, he freezes in shock. Whoa, My body started floating just from the thought of standing up. It's as if gravity itself has lost its grip on him. The power flowing through his body feels completely different now. As he slowly descends back to the ground, a realization flashes through his mind. So, I guess it's time to test the peerless triple unity blade. But just as quickly, he remembers something important. Oh, right, there's still the formless firing technique. He walks over to a bow resting nearby and casually picks it up. The moment he grips it, his eyes widen. This 100-pound iron bow feels as light as a feather now. The strength in his body has increased to a ridiculous level. What once required immense effort now feels effortless. Standing in the middle of the forest, he raises the bow and draws the string. The air around him tightens. Energy begins to gather at the tip of the arrow. Then he releases. The arrow explodes forward like a bolt of lightning. In an instant, it tears through the air and slams straight into a massive tree. Boom! Wood splinters everywhere as the arrow punches deep into the trunk. A cloud of dust bursts outward from the impact, and the once unshakable tree now bears a massive hole in its side. Seeing the destruction caused by a single shot, it's clear. His power has reached an entirely new level, and this is only the beginning. The arrow slams into the tree with terrifying force. The entire trunk caves inward, splintering as wood explodes outward from the impact. The boy stares at the damage with wide eyes. Whoa, this is incredible. How can this even be blocked? What should have been a normal shot instead carried overwhelming power. It's clear now, his strength has already surpassed what he expected. Taking a deep breath, he calms himself down. I mastered shapeless shooting in a fortnight. His progress has been unbelievably fast, but there's still one thing left. Now the only thing left is the peerless triple unity blade. Satisfied with his training for now, he lowers the bow. Better return to the cave. With that, he leaps into the air. His body rises effortlessly, gliding across the sky toward the towering cliff where the cave lies. Even he seems surprised by how smooth it feels. This art really is amazing. I haven't even mastered any flying techniques. Yet somehow, his body moves through the air as if it were natural. Moments later, he reaches the cave entrance and lands inside. But the instant his feet touch the ground, a powerful pressure bursts out from within the cave. The sudden force makes him flinch. Wind spirals violently around him as energy crackles through the air. For a moment, it feels overwhelming. But instead of panicking, he simply smirks. I can handle this much. Red energy begins to swirl around his body, clashing with the lightning-like power filling the cave. The aura around him flares wildly as he pushes forward. Step by step, he advances deeper inside. Then suddenly, he stops. In front of him stand 3 ancient hanging scrolls. Each one displays a figure demonstrating a different sword technique. At the base of the wall sits a small wooden chest. The boy stares at the scrolls, scratching his head. Damn, are there instructions or anything? After all, I've never even touched a sword before. So instead of practicing elegant sword techniques, he starts with the most basic thing imaginable. Grabbing a rough piece of wood, he begins carving it down, slowly shaping it into a sword. Because if he's going to master the peerless triple unity blade, he'll have to start from the very beginning. Still confused by the scrolls in front of him, the boy decides to start from the basics. I don't really get it, but I'll make a wooden sword for now. Sitting inside the cave, he carefully carves a rough piece of wood. Shavings scatter across the ground as the shape slowly begins to resemble a sword. It's crude, but it will do. Once finished, he stands up and faces the 3 ancient scrolls again. pull out the sword like this. He spreads his stance, mimicking the posture shown in the painting. His body twists slightly as he draws the wooden sword, copying every detail he can see. Then comes the next movement. Then, strike down. He swings the sword downward with force, trying to replicate the sequence exactly as it appears on the scroll, but something still feels incomplete. Still staring at the final scroll, the boy scratches his head in confusion. What's the last part? I've got no clue what I'm looking at. The final movement makes absolutely no sense to him. Still, he decides to try it anyway. Raising the wooden sword high above his head, he mimics the stance shown on the scroll. Sir, what is this? And the moment he swings, a blinding surge of energy erupts from the blade. A massive wave of power bursts forward, tearing through the air like a cannon blast. Before he can even react, the recoil hits him. Whoa! The force throws his entire body backward as the glowing sword energy shoots across the cave. The boy crashes and barely manages to regain his balance. Dust swirls through the air as the ancient scrolls flutter violently from the shockwave. For a moment, the cave goes silent. The boy stands there, trembling slightly. What in the world? Even he can't believe what just happened. That wasn't just a swing, that was a true sword aura. Taking a deep breath, he tightens his grip on the wooden sword. All right, one more time. This time, he focuses. He plants his feet firmly on the ground, raises the blade again, and gathers all his strength. Then, ha! With a powerful roar, he brings the sword down with everything he has. And once again, a blazing arc of sword energy explodes forward from the blade, racing through the cave like a streak of lightning. The technique hidden within the scrolls is finally beginning to awaken, and this is only the beginning of his mastery. As the blazing sword energy shoots forward, the boy suddenly bursts into laughter. So this is what it is. In that instant, everything begins to make sense. The scrolls weren't just showing movements, they were showing how to release the power behind them. Without wasting another second, he turns back toward the wall. Then the other scrolls too. Standing firmly inside the misty cave, he grips the wooden sword and studies the second scroll carefully. His body lowers into position, muscles tense. Then suddenly, upward strike! With a fierce shout, he swings the sword upward with explosive force. At that exact moment, a streak of blue sword energy erupts from the blade and rockets toward the scroll. The power shoots forward like a beam of light, but the recoil is just as violent. Whoop! The boy flips sideways as the shockwave spins his body through the air. For a split second, it looks like the energy beam might take his head off, but he barely manages to dodge it. Landing back on his feet, he exhales sharply. Phew, thought I was going to lose my head there. Still, a grin slowly spreads across his face, because now he understands. I think I get it. These scrolls aren't simply instructions. They're keys to unlocking different sword techniques. His gaze slowly shifts toward the final scroll. What's the third one? The moment he focuses on it, the air around him begins to change. Energy starts spiraling through the cave like a rising storm. Blue currents swirl around his body, while a faint red aura flickers from within him. The power of the third technique is beginning to awaken. And whatever comes next will be far more dangerous than the last.
The moment he focuses on the final scroll, the energy inside the cave suddenly explodes outward. A blinding surge of power erupts from the technique, flooding the entire cave with a violent wave of energy. Lightning-like currents wrap around the wooden sword as the boy struggles to control it. His arms tremble under the pressure, yet somehow he manages to keep the blade steady. Electric arcs crackle around him as he grits his teeth. Gah, so powerful. This technique is on a completely different level. Then suddenly, the meaning behind the 3 scrolls begins to reveal itself. A realization flashes through his mind. First is swiftness, second is deception, and the third is the key of the moon itself. The moment he understands, a red aura slowly begins to rise from his body. The technique he's learning isn't just a sword strike, it's a form created from the sky-high motionless form, a path most likely forged by the legendary Wu Wei himself. And now, that path is beginning to unfold before him. The scene shifts. Night falls over the forest. A full moon hangs high in the sky, illuminating the land with pale silver light. Standing beneath the moon, the boy raises his sword. His body moves through the air with fluid precision as he begins practicing the technique again and again. Each movement becomes faster, sharper, more precise. His sword slices through the night air like a streak of moonlight. He leaps, spins, and strikes with perfect control. The swirling blade traces arcs through the darkness as the mist around him scatters with every swing. Under the silent gaze of the moon, the boy continues training relentlessly. Because he knows one thing. If he wants to truly master the peerless triple unity blade, then this is only the beginning.
Under the bright glow of the full moon, the boy launches himself high into the air. Suspended against the massive moonlight behind him, he raises his sword and focuses all the energy in his body. Then, with a single, decisive motion, he strikes. A blazing red line of sword energy slices straight downward like a falling beam of light. Back inside the cave, the energy arcs across the wall and slashes through the ancient scrolls. The force tears through them with a sharp, violent cut. The boy lands back on the ground and exhales slowly. Whew, disgusting. The training had been brutal. It took 6 entire months just to cut through the first scroll, and 10 more months to finally break through the second. Nearly a year and a half of relentless practice. But now, only one challenge remains. Now I just need to cut the third. Time passes. The seasons change. The once green forest slowly transforms into a cold winter landscape. Snow blankets the ground, and the trees stand bare in the freezing air. Suddenly, a man drops violently from above. He crashes toward the ground with terrifying speed. Boom! The impact explodes into the earth, sending snow and debris flying everywhere. But the man doesn't stop there. He launches forward immediately, rushing toward a massive tree. With a fierce shout, he swings his blade. A red arc of sword energy bursts from the strike and slams into the towering trunk. The tree shudders violently under the impact. And in the next moment, the massive trunk splits apart. A clean, devastating cut slices straight through it. The power of the blade echoes through the quiet winter forest. And it's clear now, someone has become far stronger during all that time. The moment the strike lands, the ground erupts. A violent shockwave blasts through the snow as the earth splits apart beneath the impact. Trees shake violently while frozen branches snap under the pressure. Snow explodes into the air like a blizzard. But the man doesn't stop moving. He dashes forward across the snowy ground, his steps splashing through the slush as he launches himself toward a nearby cliff. With a powerful leap, he drives his fist straight into the solid rock wall. Boom! The entire cliff cracks under the force. Huge chunks of stone break loose and crumble apart as the shock spreads through the mountain. Then another explosion follows. Rocks shatter, debris rains down. The impact sends fragments flying in every direction. When the dust finally settles, the man slowly turns around. His expression is calm, cold. focused. But his gaze isn't on the destruction behind him. Instead, he's thinking about the cave, about the ancient scrolls, and the training that consumed nearly 2 years and 3 months of his life. Standing in front of the final scroll, he finally understands what it represents. The first step of the peerless triple unity blade. Thoughtless blade. With a steady breath, he grips his sword. Then, without hesitation, he swings. A thin red line flashes through the air as the blade cuts forward with perfect precision. No wasted movement, no hesitation, just a single, flawless strike.
The warrior stood in the smoke-filled chamber, gripping his blade tightly. "I won," he said quietly, staring at the battlefield before him. But the fight was not truly over yet. With calm, controlled breathing, he raised his sword once again and spoke the name of his technique. The second step of the peerless triple unity blade, Loveless Blade. In a flash, a sharp crimson arc shot forward. The slash cut through the target with surgical precision, splitting it apart instantly. This technique was not meant for killing. It was a blade created purely for defense, a strike designed to defeat an enemy without taking their life. Fragments of the shattered target fell to the ground, echoing through the silent hall. But the warrior was not finished. He slowly turned his gaze toward the final target and murmured, "And the last." The air around him began to tremble. He raised his sword high above his head. Red energy surged along the blade, spiraling violently as power gathered around him. His eyes burned with fierce determination. Then he roared, the third step of the peerless triple unity blade, Endless Blade. In the next instant, the sword came crashing down. A massive surge of power erupted outward like a storm. The ground exploded, pillars shattered, and the entire chamber collapsed under the overwhelming force of the strike. Rocks and debris rained down as the dust cloud swallowed everything. When the destruction finally settled, the warrior stood alone before the ruins. He looked at the fallen remnants of the place and quietly spoke his final words. "My farewell to you, esteemed ancestors." Slowly, he knelt down, placing a hand on the ground in silent respect. After a moment of reflection, he stood back up. With the mountains stretching endlessly behind him and snow-covered peaks touching the sky, the warrior began to walk forward, leaving the past behind him and stepping toward whatever destiny awaited him next. The young man lay comfortably in a hammock, gently swaying in the warm afternoon breeze, completely relaxed, completely carefree. Beside him stood an old master, gripping his staff with frustration. "Boy," the old man snapped, "you need to have some aspirations at your age." He sighed deeply and continued, "With your strength, you could become a general of an army, or even the strongest warrior in all of Jungyuan's Murim." But the young man didn't even open his eyes. "I already have an aspiration," he replied lazily. The old master raised an eyebrow. "Oh, is that right? Tell me about it." The young man stretched comfortably in the hammock before answering. "A humble, honest life, basking in warm sunlight and being well fed. That's the best life." For a moment, everything went silent. Then, "Brat!" The old master exploded with rage. He swung his staff down, trying to smash the hammock apart. "Try dodging this, too!" But the young man barely moved. He simply leaned back, still lounging. "Come on, Gramps," he said casually. "I'm beyond your reach now." The old master growled and threw a punch straight at him. "Gah!" But the young man calmly blocked it with 2 fingers. "Ha ha! You should save what little strength you have." The old master, now completely furious, launched another punch, but again the young man stopped it effortlessly. Like I said. The old master froze in disbelief. Gah! For the first time, he realized something. This lazy brat was far stronger than he looked. That night, inside their small cabin deep in the mountains, the atmosphere became quiet. The old master sat across from the young man beside a dim candlelight. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "I won't tell you what to do anymore." The young man listened quietly. "But don't you think you should at least find a wife?" The old master sighed. "And continue the bloodline?" The young man sighed quietly. As if there are any women in these mountains. He had lived in isolation for years, so the idea of finding a wife here was simply ridiculous. But then, the old master calmly dropped a shocking truth. "Your wife is in Zhongyuan." The young man's eyes widened. "What?" The old master stroked his long beard and continued. "When you were 4 years old, I made acquaintance with the head of the Sichuan Dang family and arranged an engagement." The young man froze in disbelief. The Dang family, one of the 5 mightiest families of Zhongyuan, and the strongest clan in the entire Sichuan region. The old master placed a jade plaque on the floor. "This jade plaque will prove that you are the Dang family's son-in-law. The Dang family should have the other half." The young man slowly picked up the plaque. His expression became serious. Then the old master handed him another item, a thick, ancient book. "This is the Tome of Heart Sutra. It belongs to the Shaolin Temple, so return it on your way to Sichuan." For the first time, the young man realized something. His quiet life in the mountains was finally coming to an end. Meanwhile, far away from the mountains, a rider dashed through the forest at full speed. "Ha! Ha! Keep it up, Dark Wind!" The armored scout urged his horse forward desperately. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. It was foolish of me to blindly believe the scout's words. Suddenly, the horse screeched in panic. "Err! Whoa!" In the next instant, the ground beneath them exploded. Ice spikes burst from the earth. The horse was thrown violently into the air. Crash! Both rider and horse slammed onto the dirt road. Dust filled the air. The scout groaned as he struggled to move, and the horse lay motionless beside him. The journey had just taken a deadly turn. The young warrior knelt beside his fallen horse. Dust slowly settled around him. "I'm sorry. This is all my fault." The loyal horse had carried him this far, and now it lay motionless on the ground. The warrior tightened his grip on his sword. He slowly raised it above his head. His eyes hardened with resolve. "Goodbye." But before the blade could fall, the sound of galloping hooves echoed through the forest. Suddenly, a group of riders burst out from the trees. "There! Capture him!" The warrior turned sharply. His enemies had finally caught up. Moments later, a large man stepped forward from the group. Tall, broad, covered in heavy armor and a fur mantle. "I am Taru, chief of the Baihe tribe." His voice was cold and commanding. "I will spare your life if you surrender." The warrior slowly raised his sword. His eyes burned with defiance. "Shut it. Surrendering is no different from death for us Yaku tribe." Then he pointed his blade forward. "Come at me." In the next instant, he launched forward. Ha! His body shot across the battlefield like a bolt of lightning. Steel clashed violently. Clang! The two warriors collided head-on. Their blades sparked as they crossed, but Taru's eyes widened. He hadn't expected the young warrior to be this fast. The fight had only just begun.
The young warrior lunged forward with everything he had. His blade cut through the air. But suddenly, Taru's eyes widened. He moved faster than expected. Clang! In a single motion, Taru struck the weapon aside. The young warrior's sword spun away, flying straight into a nearby tree. For a brief moment, silence fell over the battlefield. The young warrior stared at his empty hand. Sweat dripped down his face. Then Taru spoke calmly. "Very good for your age." He lowered his weapon slightly. "What is your name?" The young warrior straightened his posture. "Yaku tribe's vice chief, Guyuk." His voice was steady. Then he continued, "I trust you won't shame me, as you've named yourself clan chief. Grant me an honorable death." Taru studied him quietly. Then he nodded. "Fine. I am also a man of honor. I shall uphold yours." Under the dim moonlight, Guyuk knelt on the ground, calm, proud, ready to accept his fate. Behind him, Taru slowly raised his weapon. "Farewell!" The blade came down, but suddenly, thud! Taru's eyes shot open in shock. Gah! An arrow had pierced straight into his back. Blood spilled as he staggered forward. "Who's there?" Taru roared in fury. The warriors quickly turned toward the forest. The trees stood silent, but something or someone was hiding in the shadows.
The forest suddenly went silent. Then, crack! A branch snapped high above the trees. Before anyone could react, a shadow dropped from the sky. Thud! A young man landed between the warriors. Dust scattered across the ground. The soldiers instantly raised their weapons, but the newcomer simply folded his arms calmly. "It's unfair attacking someone with so many people." His voice was relaxed, almost amused. Taru narrowed his eyes. "I am Taru, chief of the Baihe tribe." Then he glared at the stranger. "Who might you be?" The young man casually stretched his arms. "Just a sleepy man who was awakened because of the noise." The soldiers exchanged confused looks. Even Guyuk stared in disbelief. How could someone remain so calm in the middle of this battlefield? But Taru's patience was already gone. "Arrogant bastard, get down on your knees at once." The soldiers rushed forward, spears aimed straight at the mysterious man, but the young man didn't move. Instead, he smiled. "You can kneel yourself." In the next instant, whoosh, an arrow shot forward. Thud! It slammed directly into one soldier's armor. Gah! The man was thrown backwards instantly. The battlefield froze. The mysterious archer had just entered the fight. Two soldiers rushed forward with their spears raised. Urgh! But before they could strike, the mysterious archer moved. In one smooth motion, he drew his bow. Twang! An arrow flew instantly. Gah! One soldier cried out as the arrow pierced straight through his armor. Another arrow followed. The attackers collapsed before they could even reach him. The young man calmly lowered his bow. Then he glanced at Taru. "Hey, Chief, attack me again and everyone dies." The warning was cold and absolute, but Taru refused to back down. He raised his blade and charged. In the next instant, thud! An arrow slammed directly into his shoulder. Ugh! Taru staggered back. His eyes widened in shock. "When he's powerful." The battlefield fell silent. Moments later, the young warrior Gu Yuk bowed respectfully. "You saved my life. Thank you very much." The archer simply looked up at the quiet night sky. Meanwhile, behind them, the defeated enemy sat tied up against a tree. Gu Yuk spoke again. "Why were they trying to kill you? You look like you're from the same tribe." He continued explaining. "I'm part of the Jan Shu Jurgens, but there have been many internal battles lately." Then he asked carefully, "Where are you headed, sir?" The archer answered casually, "To the Shaolin Temple. Do you know the way?" Gu Yuk nodded. "The Shaolin Temple is about 20 days south of Beijing." The archer raised an eyebrow. Then he asked another question. "What about the Deng family in Sichuan?" Gu Yuk blinked in surprise. "Sichuan is southwest of Zhangguan, but it'll take 5 or 6 months because the road is so harsh." The archer froze. "Ah, that far?" He grabbed his head in frustration. In his mind, his grandfather's voice echoed, "If you keep moving diligently, it'll take you only a little more than a month." The young man clenched his fists. "Why the hell would you lie to your grandson?" Gu Yuk watched silently, completely confused. After a moment, he cleared his throat. "Wherever you're headed, I suggest you stock up in our village before you leave." The archer leaned back with a tired sigh. His journey had only just begun.
The next morning, 2 riders traveled quietly along a forest road. The sound of hooves echoed through the trees. Clop, clop, clop. After the battle the night before, the 2 had finally introduced themselves. "My name is Gu Yuk," the young warrior said proudly. "From now on, I will consider you my brother." The archer glanced forward calmly. "I'm Ulji So Moon. Just call me Moon." The road stretched quietly ahead of them, but suddenly, Moon's eyes narrowed. In the distance, a cloud of dust was rising fast. Dozens of riders were approaching. Heavy armor, spears raised, warriors charging through the forest. Moon looked at Gu Yuk. "What's this? More enemies of yours?" But Gu Yuk suddenly burst into a grin. "Hyungnim, those are our men. They must have been looking for me." Without hesitation, he raised his arm high. "Chief!" The riders quickly slowed their horses. One of them stepped forward. "Oh, are you alive? Thank goodness." Gu Yuk lowered his head respectfully. "I'm deeply ashamed, Chief. 100 men died because of my stubbornness." The chief shook his head calmly. "They died for our tribe. It's unfortunate, but they all died honorably." Then his eyes shifted past Gu Yuk, toward the quiet archer standing behind him. "But who might that be?" Gu Yuk turned back. His eyes lit up. "Oh!" The mysterious man who saved his life was finally about to be introduced.
Guyak pointed toward the quiet archer beside him. "He's the one I owe my life to. His skill with the bow is incredible." Then he smiled proudly. "Hyungnim, this is our tribe's high chief." The armored leader studied the young archer carefully. After a moment, he placed his hand over his chest in respect. "My name is Marananta. I am grateful to you for saving our vice chief's life." Not long after, they arrived at the tribe's camp. Dozens of great tents stretched across the grasslands. Warriors guarded every entrance. This was the heart of the tribe. Inside the camp, Guyak called one of the soldiers forward. "Mossad, you will now serve this man. Pledge your complete loyalty to him until the day you die." Without hesitation, the soldier dropped to one knee. "My name is Mossad," his head lowered in absolute loyalty. But the archer frowned slightly. "I'm Ulji Somun. Don't ever kneel before me again." The soldier froze. "Yes, Chief." Moon sighed. "Chief? Just call me by my name." But Mossad's face turned pale with shock. How could I call the man I serve by his name? To him, such a thing was unthinkable.
Moon looked at the soldier quietly. Then he asked a simple question. "How old are you?" The soldier blinked in confusion. "Huh? 19 this year, sir." Moon nodded slightly. "Then you're younger than me. So just call me Hyungnim." The young soldier's face turned pale. "What? No, that would be—" Before he could finish, Gu Yuk cut him off. "Do as he says. Your job now is to do whatever he tells you." And just like that, the soldier had no choice. Meanwhile, the peaceful tribe camp stretched across the grasslands. White tents stood beneath the open sky. Sheep wandered lazily across the fields. But inside one of the tents, Moon was learning something important. "There are two societies in Junyan," the boy explained. "One ruled by the emperor, and the other a society of Murim warriors called Gangho." Moon nodded slowly. "Aha! So Junyan is divided between a country called Gangho and the Ming dynasty." The boy laughed awkwardly. "Gangho isn't a country. It's a society of Murim warriors living within the Ming dynasty." Moon leaned back slightly, thinking. So it was founded by Murim warriors, and the Shaolin is the most powerful clan there. Not long after, Gu Yuk rushed into the tent with urgency on his face. "Hyungnim, I believe the war will begin again." Moon slowly turned his head. "Huh? Really? It's been pretty quiet here the past few months." Gu Yuk nodded. "The Baihe tribe has reached Mount Mita. They're only about 20 miles away." The air inside the tent suddenly felt heavier. Soon after, Gu Yuk prepared to leave. Outside the tent, the wind blew across the open plains. Moon stood quietly as Gu Yuk bowed respectfully. "Return in one piece." Gu Yuk placed his fist into his palm. "Yes, Hyungnim, I'll return victorious as soon as possible." Then he turned to his subordinate. "Mossad, take care of Hyungnim while I'm gone." The young soldier immediately bowed. "Yes, Vice Chief." Gu Yuk walked away toward the battlefield, his cloak fluttering behind him in the wind. Moon watched his figure disappear into the distance. Then he asked calmly, "How strong is the Baihe tribe?" The boy hesitated before answering. "About 3 times the size of Yaoku's. In a full-scale war, we'd definitely be at a disadvantage." Moon stared toward the darkening horizon. Storm clouds were gathering above the grasslands. He narrowed his eyes slightly. That doesn't sound good. In the distance, the vast plains stretched endlessly, and somewhere out there, war was already beginning. Across the vast plains, 2 massive armies faced each other. Thousands of soldiers filled the battlefield. Banners whipped violently in the wind. The air was thick with dust and tension. Then a rider galloped across the front lines. Behind him, an army of blue-armored warriors roared like thunder. "There might be less of us, but most of them are untrained soldiers." The commander raised his blade high. "Charge!" At once, the entire army surged forward. War horns echoed across the plains. From the opposite side, another army began to move. An old general watched the charge calmly from horseback. Then he gave his command. "Cavalry, attack from both sides." His eyes burned with confidence. "Advance!" Suddenly, the ground shook.
Enemy riders stormed forward like a tidal wave. Spears lowered, war cries erupting across the battlefield. Yaha! Hooves thundered against the earth, dust exploded into the sky, and within seconds, both armies crashed into each other. Steel met steel, blades clashed, the battlefield erupted into chaos. The war had begun.
The battlefield exploded into chaos. Arrows rained down like a storm. Soldiers screamed as they fell from their horses. Steel clashed against steel. The ground shook beneath thousands of charging warriors. Dust swallowed the battlefield, turning the plains into a storm of blood and steel. In the middle of the chaos, Gu-yuk fought like a raging beast. His blade flashed through the smoke. Enemies rushed him from every direction. But, far away, on a rocky hill overlooking the battlefield, Moon stood silently. He watched the war unfold below. Then he spoke calmly. "Mossad, bring me a lot of tree branches." The young soldier quickly obeyed. Soon, Moon began carving the branches with a small knife. Shk, shk, shk. Wood chips fell to the ground. One by one, the branches became arrows. Below them, the battle only grew more brutal. Warriors crashed into each other. Spears pierced armor. Horses screamed as they fell. Blood painted the battlefield red. Moon slowly raised his bow. "I don't want to kill, but if I want to prevent more deaths." His eyes sharpened. The bowstring tightened. Twang! The arrow shot forward like lightning. It tore through the air and struck a charging enemy soldier. The man's weapon flew from his hand. Ah! At that same moment, Gu-yuk roared across the battlefield. Hi-ya! He leaped through the air like a falling meteor. His sword crashed down toward the enemy below. The battle had only just begun.
The warrior narrows his eyes as he slowly pulls back the bowstring. A cold realization runs through his mind. To kill a serpent, you must cut off its head. Without hesitation, he releases the arrow. His gaze locks onto a single target hidden within the chaos of the battlefield. That one. The arrow shoots forward like lightning. At the same moment, the battlefield erupts. A devastating slash tears through the enemy soldiers, sending them flying from their horses. Cries of pain echo through the dust as their formation begins to crumble. Another powerful strike follows immediately. Steel cuts through the crowd of armored riders, throwing them into complete disarray. One rider raises his weapon to attack, but before he can even react, the arrow pierces straight through him. He chokes in shock, realizing far too late what just happened. The arrow continues its deadly path. More arrows rain down from above, slamming into the ground around the commanders like spears falling from the sky. The speed of the attack is almost impossible to follow. Watching from behind, a young soldier stares in disbelief. Incredible! So fast! Sweat runs down his face as he struggles to comprehend what he just witnessed. Meanwhile, the enemy cavalry continues their charge without a hint of doubt. Their leader raises his weapon confidently and shouts to his men, "Keep it up! The enemies are nothing but pigs to the slaughter." They believe victory is already theirs. But suddenly, the charging leader jerks violently. An arrow has struck him. He gasps as blood spills from the wound, his strength fading instantly. "The chief, sir!" Panic spreads through the cavalry in an instant. Horses rear up, soldiers lose control. The once fearless charge collapses into pure chaos. Cries of confusion and pain echo across the battlefield. The enemy's head has been cut off.
The battlefield descends into chaos. Horses rear violently as riders are thrown off balance. Soldiers crash into the ground, their weapons flying from their hands as dust and screams fill the air. Arrows continue tearing through the battlefield, striking riders one after another. Men are knocked from their saddles as panic spreads through the cavalry ranks. A soldier's terrified face twists in shock as the relentless attack cuts through their formation. But from the distance, a loud shout suddenly rises above the noise. "Don't give up! Our reinforcements are here!" Fresh troops surge forward, swords raised high as they charge into the battlefield with renewed determination. Their war cries echo through the smoke and dust as they rush to join the fight. The ground trembles under the weight of their advance. The enemy cavalry begins to slow, confusion spreading among them as they struggle to understand what is happening. Some riders glance around uneasily. Their voices tremble as they realize the situation is no longer in their favor. Then, a towering commander wearing thick fur armor stares forward with a shocked expression. Who is that monster shooting the arrows? Beside him, another officer wipes the sweat from his face. "He seems to be the one who got me when we lost the enemy's vice chief, sir." The commander's eyes narrow as he stares toward the battlefield. Such incredible skill with the bow. I can't believe what I'm seeing. But the moment of shock doesn't last long. Another officer steps forward urgently. "Sir, this is no time to be impressed. We must have the cavalry fall back at once, and—" The realization is clear. If they don't retreat now, the entire cavalry force could be wiped out. The commander stares across the battlefield as the sound of collapsing morale spreads through his army. The battle is already over. Once the soldiers have lost their morale, there's nothing we can do. His jaw tightens as the reality sinks in. We have no way to rally them. Retreat! For a moment, he looks out at the battlefield in disbelief. How terrifying. A single archer deciding a war. Then he raises his hand and gives the final command. "All men, retreat!" Across the battlefield, horns echo through the air. "Retreat! Fall back!" The once fearless cavalry begins pulling away, their banners turning as the army withdraws. From the opposing side, soldiers erupt with cheers. Weapons are raised high as they shout in victory. On a nearby hill, the young soldier jumps excitedly beside the calm archer. "Hyungnim, the enemies are retreating. We won!" The archer simply stands there quietly, bow still in hand. After a moment, he turns away. "Let's go, Masad." Soon after, the victorious army returns to their camp. Rows of tents fill the field as soldiers celebrate their hard-earned victory. Cups are raised high into the air. "We're celebrating our victory, so drink as much as your heart desires." Laughter spreads through the camp as warriors feast and drink. "Did you see those bastards panicking?" One soldier wipes his mouth with a grin. "I've never achieved such an exhilarating victory." The camp is still buzzing with celebration when the archer quietly walks through the tents, his expression calm and unreadable. Beside him, Mossad glances up, still amazed by what he witnessed on the battlefield. Suddenly, a young warrior comes sprinting toward them. "Hyungnim!" He skids to a stop, breathing heavily but grinning with excitement. "Yugyuk! You're alive!" The archer turns his head slightly, recognizing the voice. The young warrior beams with gratitude. "All thanks to you, Hyungnim!" He quickly gestures toward the command tents behind them. "This way, Hyungnim! My father and the generals are waiting for you." But the archer simply shakes his head. "Later, I'm a little tired right now." The young warrior pauses, surprised. Still, he can't help but say what everyone is thinking. "Still, you were the one who secured our victory." The archer begins walking away, stretching his arms slightly after the long battle. "I'll see you later. I'm really tired after shooting so many arrows." But before the moment can settle, a strange glow suddenly lights up the sky. The clouds burn red as flames begin spreading across the distant battlefield. The archer and Mossad both stop and stare. Then, explosions erupt across the plains. Fire races through the camps and soldiers as chaos spreads instantly. Screams echo through the smoke. "Ah! Don't run!" Flames roar as terrified soldiers scatter in every direction, horses bucking wildly through the inferno. What should have been a moment of victory suddenly turns into a nightmare.
Screams echo through the burning village as chaos spreads everywhere. Soldiers ride through the smoke, dragging helpless villagers behind them. One man cries out in agony as he's struck down, while others are chased across the flames. Watching the scene unfold, the archer's expression hardens. Who the hell are they? Mossad stares at the burning village and answers quietly. They are the Yauku tribe's soldiers. The archer clenches his jaw as the fires rage behind him. What? Why are they burning a village and capturing its people when they've already won the battle? Mossad hesitates before replying. It seems there was someone who helped the Bai-He tribe among them. The archer's eyes narrow. Then they should only get that person. Why are they capturing all the other innocent people? Mossad looks uneasy as he realizes the truth. That's to sell them, or enslave them. The words hang heavily in the air. How cruel. The archer lowers his head slightly, his eyes darkening, as a red aura of anger slowly begins to rise around him. Meanwhile, the captured villagers are gathered together in rows. Men, women, and elders kneel helplessly on the ground as armed soldiers stand guard behind them. "Next person!" A soldier drags a bound prisoner forward and raises his blade without hesitation. For the villagers, the nightmare has only just begun.
The captured villagers kneel helplessly in the dirt as armed soldiers surround them. One terrified man is forced forward, his hands bound behind his back. A soldier raises his blade and declares coldly, "You helped the enemy, so you will be punished by death." The prisoner lowers his head, trembling, as the executioner lifts his sword high into the air. But just as the blade is about to fall, a powerful voice cuts through the camp. "Stop right there!" The soldier freezes. At the nearby feast table, several generals turn in surprise, their celebration suddenly interrupted. Through the crowd, a familiar figure walks forward. The archer. Mossad follows closely behind him. One of the commanders quickly spreads his arms in greeting. "Oh, welcome, Master Ulji." Another gestures eagerly. "This way, Hyungnim." The general smiles broadly, clearly pleased. "We managed to win all thanks to you. I offer you my sincerest gratitude." But the archer doesn't smile. Instead, he raises his arm and points directly toward the bound villagers. The war is already over. His voice is calm but firm. "Please let go of those people." For a moment, there is silence. Then the general suddenly bursts into loud laughter. "Your skill with the bow is monstrous, but you're very soft-hearted." He spreads his arms casually. "I understand how you feel, but there's nothing that can be done." He gestures toward the table. "Come, sit down and have a drink with us." The archer remains still. Slowly, he lowers his head and clasps his hands together. "I beseech you, free the people of this village." But before anyone can respond, a furious voice erupts nearby. "How dare you? Do you know who stands before you?" At that moment, the ground suddenly cracks with a violent impact. Dust explodes into the air as a powerful force slams down. The entire camp falls silent. The archer slowly turns his head, his expression dark and unreadable. He says nothing, but everyone can feel it. Something very dangerous is about to happen. The tense silence in the camp is suddenly shattered.
A massive warrior in red armor steps forward, pointing angrily at the archer. "Your achievements today don't pardon such immodesty. Leave at once." The air grows heavy as everyone turns to watch the confrontation. One of the generals quickly tries to calm the situation. "General Lee, please, this is a time of celebration." But the red-armored warrior refuses to back down. "With all due respect, Chief, what he's doing is an act of disrespect." His face twists with fury as he points directly at the archer. "Bastard! Don't get cocky with your unremarkable archery." Nearby, the young warrior quickly speaks up in defense. "General, Su-moon Hyung-nim is the one who secured our victory today." But the enraged vice chief cuts him off immediately. "Stay out of this, Chief." He slams a fist against his chest and roars. "To disrespect the chieftain means to disrespect all of the tribe." The archer remains completely calm, standing silently while the insults fly past him. ... Then the vice chief gives a brutal order. "Take him away, men!" At once, several soldiers step forward, surrounding the archer with their spears pointed toward him. But the archer doesn't move. He simply stands there as the soldiers close in. Suddenly, a furious shout erupts behind them. "Screw off!" At the same moment, the red-armored warrior draws his massive blade and swings it forward with confidence. "While you may be good with the bow, I'm good with the dagger." The weapon slices through the air, and the confrontation finally explodes into violence. The furious vice chief suddenly thrusts his arm forward. "Here, catch this!" A hidden blade shoots through the air, flying straight toward the archer. Across the camp, the generals watch in shock. "What? That fool!" But the archer doesn't move. He stands perfectly still, eyes cold and focused as the blade closes in. "Watch out!" The warning comes too late. Suddenly, Mosset leaps forward. The blade pierces into him with a sickening impact. Gah! The archer's eyes widen as Mosset collapses into his arms. "Mosset, keep it together!" He catches the young boy as his body goes limp. Mosset forces a weak smile, trying to stay conscious. "My body just moved on its own." His voice trembles as the strength leaves him. The archer's grip tightens in panic. "No, Mosset!" But Mosset's head falls against his chest. His breathing fades. And in that moment, the battlefield falls silent.
On the battlefield, amid the screams and clashing steel, Mossad lay on the ground. His breathing was weak. Blood slowly spread across his clothes. Yet he was smiling. "Hyung-nim, please don't look so sad." Tears welled in his eyes. "You look best when you're smiling." Moon's eyes trembled. "Fine, I got it. I'll smile, I promise. So don't die." But Mossad's fading voice returned one last time. "It has been a pleasure knowing you." His head slowly fell to the side. His body went limp. Moon froze. "Mossad!" He held the young soldier tightly, but it was too late. Something inside Moon snapped. A dark aura began rising from his body. His eyes burned with a terrifying red light. "How dare you?" He slowly stood up, blood dripping from the dagger in his hand. "Let's see you catch this." An enemy warrior charged toward him, but before the man could react, Moon vanished. In a single instant, he appeared above him. A crimson slash tore through the air. The enemy collapsed. Moon stood there like a demon. His glowing eyes stared across the battlefield. Cold, merciless. Yaoko tribe, you're all dead.
Moon's grief finally exploded. Raising his blade to the sky, he roared, "Peerless triple unity blade! The third step! Endless blade!" A terrifying surge of crimson energy erupted from his body. Blades of energy shot outward in every direction, like a storm of death tearing across the battlefield. Soldiers froze of the destruction, like a demon born from grief. Behind him, a young warrior watched in horror. "Young Nim!" His hands trembled, but Moon didn't turn back. Huh? The young warrior collapsed to his knees. "Young Nim!" Moon's glowing red eyes slowly dimmed as he spoke quietly. "Guyuk." Right. He turned slightly, his long hair swaying in the wind. "Thanks for everything. I'll never forget you. Or Mossad." For a moment, silence covered the battlefield. Then Moon pulled the dagger from his hand and tossed it aside into the grass. Goodbye. The blade disappeared into the tall field. Behind him, Guyuk shouted desperately, "Young Nim, please don't forget me! I'll always be waiting for your return!" But Moon did not look back. He simply walked forward, leaving the battlefield behind. Later, as the wind moved through the tall wheat fields, Moon walked alone beneath the open sky. Quietly, he whispered to himself, "Mossad was a good kid. He should be in a better place now." And with that, he continued walking toward the distant mountains.
Days had passed since Moon last saw another person. The road stretched endlessly ahead of him. Tall wheat fields swayed on both sides, golden waves dancing with the wind. Moon walked quietly down the narrow path. Then he sighed. It's kind of frustrating, not seeing a single person in 4 days. He rubbed his forehead slowly, his hair messy from the long journey. I wonder what grandfather's up to. Then, a shadow passed across the ground. Moon lifted his head. Something was circling above him. Realization. A hawk, flying in wide circles across the sky. Moon's eyes widened. Ah! Ironblood! Excited reunion. The hawk immediately folded its wings and dove down toward him. Ironblood! Moon raised his arm high into the air, a rare smile appearing on his face, for the first time in days. The hawk landed smoothly on his arm, wings rustling softly. Ironblood, what happened? How'd you find me? Moon laughed lightly. The hawk stared back calmly, as if it had been searching for him all along. Moon tilted his head. How's grandfa? He stopped mid-sentence. Wait, did something happen back home? The hawk shifted its weight, then slowly lifted one claw. Moon blinked. Huh? From the hawk's claw, a small folded letter dropped into Moon's hand. Moon stared at it for a moment, confused. Then he carefully unfolded the paper. Light comedic tone. The drawing appeared first. An old man, long beard, half-lidded eyes, looking extremely lazy. Moon's expression turned blank. Then he started reading. Ironblood's been looking rather sad, so I'm sending him to you. Don't get distracted and return home quickly. I can't be bothered to cook for myself. Come and make me food. Your grandfather. Soft amusement. Moon stared at the letter in silence. The wind gently rustled through the wheat fields. Then slowly, a small smile appeared on his face. Somehow, that ridiculous message made the long road ahead feel a little less lonely. Moon stared at the letter in his hands. His eyes slowly moved across the words. Then he exhaled. Ugh, of course. His shoulders dropped slightly. Even from far away, his grandfather still managed to bother him. The letter fluttered away in the wind. Moon lifted his arm. Iron blood. The hawk spread its wings. With a sharp cry, it rose into the open sky. Moon adjusted the strap of his pack. Let's go. Iron blood. And together, they headed toward the mountains. The road stretched endlessly ahead. Tall wheat fields swayed in the wind. Step after step, Moon walked alone. The mountains slowly grew closer, silent, ancient, covered in drifting mist. The forest greeted him with quiet shadows. Moist air clung to the trees. Mist slid between the trunks like wandering ghosts. Moon slowed his pace. His eyes scanned the forest carefully. Something felt off. Behind a large rock, Moon crouched low, his breathing steady, his bow already in his hand. Then, movement. Through the mist, a massive tiger stepped into view. Its muscles rolled beneath striped fur. Its golden eyes moved slowly through the forest. A predator, patient, powerful. Moon didn't move, not even a breath too loud. He raised his bow. The bowstring slowly pulled back. A faint blue light gathered around the arrow. Energy hummed softly. Pee! The air vibrated around the tip. Moon's eyes sharpened, locked onto the tiger. The tiger suddenly stopped. Its ears twitched. Its body stiffened. It felt it. The killing intent. The tiger moved first. With terrifying speed, it lunged forward. The ground shattered beneath its claws. Leaves scattered everywhere. In a blink, the beast was already charging. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr claws stretched forward, a massive shadow falling from the sky. Moon did not panic. He didn't step back. His fingers simply released the string. The arrow shot forward, a streak of blue light cutting through the mist. The tiger descended, fangs ready to tear him apart. The glowing arrow raced upward, closer, closer. In the next heartbeat, hunter and beast would collide. Beijing, a city loud with life. Crowded streets, rows of tiled rooftops stretching into the distance, merchants shouting, carts rolling, lanterns swaying gently in the breeze. Another ordinary day in the capital, or at least, it was supposed to be. Then, something massive appeared in the middle of the street. A tiger, huge, muscles rippling beneath its striped fur. It walked straight down the road, calm, heavy steps echoing across the marketplace. Whoa! It's a tiger! People scattered in every direction. Merchants dropped their goods. Baskets spilled across the ground. Gah! Help! Children cried. Adults ran. Chaos spread through the street like wildfire. But something felt strange. One man stared carefully. That tiger walks like a human. And he was right, because beneath the tiger's massive body, someone was carrying it. Moon stepped forward from beneath the beast, the enormous tiger draped over his shoulders like a heavy cloak. Its lifeless body swayed with each step. The crowd froze, staring in disbelief. Then, suddenly, Moon slammed the tiger onto the ground. Dust scattered. He clapped his hands loudly. "Attention, please!" Clap, clap. "I have a fresh tiger." The crowd slowly gathered again, curiosity replacing fear. They surrounded the massive tiger lying on the street. Someone whispered, Whoa, it's huge. Another man leans closer. He's trying to sell it. Moon crossed his arms confidently. It was killed just now, so it's still warm. The crowd murmured, eyes shining with interest. Then one man suddenly raised his hand. 10 gold coins. What do you say? Marketplace tension, excited murmurs. The crowd gathered closer around the tiger, eyes wide, hands already raising. 10 gold coins, a man shouted from the front, but another man immediately scoffed. Not a chance. Then he raised his hand higher. I'll offer you 15. The bidding war begins. Suddenly, hands shot up everywhere. Then 20. Okay, 25. Voices overlapped. The crowd buzzed with excitement, and Moon just stood there smiling. He scratched the back of his head. I did a bit of hunting just to cover my travel expenses, but this turned out better than I thought. A quiet chuckle escaped him. Experienced eyes arrived. Then an old man slowly stepped forward, his robes rich, his eyes sharp with experience. He knelt beside the tiger's massive body, carefully inspecting it. Let me see. His fingers gently touched the fur. It only has a small hole in its forehead, so it's perfect for display. He slowly walked around the tiger, examining every part. Tiger bones are important ingredients in making herbal medicines, and there should be quite a lot from such a big tiger. The crowd listened closely. The old man crouched beside the paw. These claws could be sold as valuable accessories. Then he tapped the thick muscle of the tiger's body, and its meat will be sold at a higher price than any other meat. The old man stood up. He turned toward Moon, a small smile forming on his lips. 200 gold coins. What do you say? Moon froze. His eyes widened. 200? He slapped his hand over his mouth, completely speechless. Moments later, a heavy pouch dropped into his hands. Gold coins, stacks of them. Moon stared down at the money, his brain struggling to process it. 200 gold coins for one tiger? Beijing bustled beneath the morning sun. Roofs stretched across the city like waves of gray stone. Merchants shouted. Carts rattled over the roads. And above it all, Ironblood circled lazily through the sky, watching, waiting. Moon walked calmly through the crowded street. The tiger was already sold. The gold was already in his pouch. And now, there was only one thing left to do. Eat. His steps slowed. A large building stood ahead. Elegant wooden pillars, decorated walls. A sign hung proudly above the entrance. Man in lieu. Moon looked up at it silently, then stepped forward. The moment he reached the entrance, 2 attendants bowed, but the moment they looked at him properly, their expressions changed. One of them frowned. This place isn't for the likes of you. Go away. He waved his hand dismissively, trying to shoo Moon off like a stray dog. Moon didn't argue, didn't complain. He simply reached into his pouch. Then, flick. A single coin spun through the air. Gold, bright, heavy. The attendant's eyes widened instantly. Whoa, a gold coin? The man leapt forward, literally diving through the air to catch it. Smack. He clutched the coin with both hands like it was treasure, then immediately bowed so low his forehead nearly touched the floor. Welcome, sir. How may I help you? The attendant straightened quickly, sweat on his forehead, voice suddenly respectful. Our establishment serves drinks enjoyed by the noble Joseon's elites, as well as beverages favored by the Seimu people. He bowed again, even lower this time. We also pride ourselves on having the best food in Beijing. Moon simply stood there, quiet, expression unchanged. Behind him, the attendant remained bent over so long, his hat slowly slid off his head. But Moon didn't even notice. He was already looking inside, thinking about one thing: food. The attendant sprinted across the floor like his life depended on it. 1 gold coin is worth more than a year of my salary. His feet barely touched the ground, excitement burning in his eyes. Allow me to show you to a good seat. Moon followed calmly. Inside, the restaurant was alive with movement. Servants rushing between tables, guests chatting loudly, the scent of rich food filling the air. This way, sir. The attendant led him deeper into the hall, past rows of tables, past busy kitchens, until they reached a quiet spot, a clean table waiting. Moments later, the table was covered, plate after plate after plate. Roasted duck, fresh vegetables, steaming dishes of meat, soup, tea, a feast large enough for several people. The attendant bowed proudly. This green bamboo leaf liquor has been fermented for over a decade. It is the pride of Man-in-Lu. Then he gestured toward the table, and this duck dish is the pride of Beijing. Moon nodded once, then immediately grabbed a drumstick. Crunch. He took a bite, slowly chewing, eyes calm, completely focused on the food. Then he spoke between bites. Hey, I need a set of clothes to wear. The attendant's eyes lit up instantly. Yes, I'll bring you a great-looking pair at once. He leaned closer, whispering excitedly. Nowadays, a white outer robe with a black dress is in fashion. That's what warriors wear. Moon swallowed another bite. Okay, sounds good. The attendant nearly exploded with energy. I'll be back soon. Then he dashed away across the hall, feet pounding against the floor, leaving Moon alone with the mountain of food and a quiet moment of peace. The attendant had barely made it a few steps when Moon suddenly spoke. Wait. The man skidded across the carpet, nearly falling over his own feet. You'll need money for the clothes, Moon said calmly. The attendant blinked in surprise. Excuse me? Moon turned slightly. What you gave me earlier was more than enough. Moon reached into his pouch. Another coin flicked into the air. That was for your labor. The coin spun, glinting in the light. The attendant's eyes exploded with excitement. Exclamation point. He grabbed the coin midair, then immediately bowed so hard his forehead nearly hit the floor. Thank you very much, sir. The moment he stepped outside, he raised his fist into the sky. I've really hit the jackpot today. People on the street stared at him strangely, but he didn't care, not one bit. Moments later, he returned at full speed, sliding to a stop in front of Moon. In his hands, a carefully wrapped bundle. Sir, these clothes are made from the finest silk. Moon glanced at the bundle, then nodded once. Thanks. He placed it beside him, not even opening it yet. Instead, Moon picked up the liquor bottle. Clear bamboo leaf wine poured slowly into the cup. He raised it to his lips. The warm taste spread through his chest. Then Moon spoke quietly. Is Sichuan far from here? The attendant tilted his head slightly. Sichuan? Then he nodded slowly. Yes, the road there is known to be long and harsh. He leaned a little closer. It's especially difficult for those going for the first time. For someone traveling alone, it can be quite dangerous. But then, curiosity. The attendant scratched his head. But even though it's far, there are people who go there frequently, as if it's just a neighboring village. Moon paused mid-bite, then looked up. Who? Revealing the answer, the attendant straightened proudly. There's an organization made up of people like that. They're called the escort agency. He gestured around the busy hall. Those people travel everywhere in Zongyuan, no matter how far, no matter how dangerous. Moon stayed quiet, listening. Curious suspicion. The attendant suddenly squinted at him. "Might you be trained in martial arts, sir?" Moon calmly lifted his cup, took another sip. "Enough to protect myself." Excited solution. The attendant's face immediately lit up. "Then your problem is solved. You should join the escort agency. All your travel expenses would be covered, and you'd get paid while traveling." Observational tone. Moon slowly looked around the restaurant. Across the hall, several groups of men sat together, their clothes plain, but their posture steady, weapons resting nearby. The kind of people who spent their lives on dangerous roads. Realization. Most people here, the attendant whispered, probably intend to become wagoners for the agency. The room suddenly felt different. Not just a restaurant, but a gathering place for warriors, travelers, and men chasing dangerous roads. The next day, Moon stepped back into the streets of Beijing. But this time, he looked different. Clean clothes, dark blue robes flowing behind him. The hunter from the mountains now looked like a wandering warrior. He walked slowly through the crowded market, eyes scanning every street. 1,000-mile escort agency. Was it this way? He turned his head left, then right. Moon stopped in the middle of the road, looking around again. Was it right from here or left? The crowd continued moving around him, unbothered, unaware. Moon scratched his head. Man, I'm lost. Thinking, he covered his mouth with his hand, trying to remember the directions. The noisy marketplace faded around him, his thoughts replaying the instructions, step by step. Above the busy street, wings cut through the air. Iron blood glided down from the sky, sharp eyes watching his master. Then, flutter, the hawk landed smoothly on Moon's arm. Careful explanation. Moon raised his finger, repeating the directions out loud. The boy from Manhwa said, "If I go straight on the big road and turn left, there'll be a market. Then I turn right from there and keep going until I see a white tower. Then I should turn left." Checking his partner. Moon looked at the hawk. "You got it?" The bird tilted its head. Crack, crack. Mission accepted. Moon nodded once. Good. Then he lifted his arm. The hawk spread its wings. Whoosh! It launched into the sky. Journey continues. Moon watched Ironblood fly ahead, guiding the way. Then he stepped forward again, following the hawk through the crowded streets, toward the place where his next journey would begin. At last, Moon stopped walking. Before him stood a massive wooden gate, tall pillars, carved beams, and above it, a sign. 1,000-mile escort agency. Moon looked up at it quietly, then nodded to himself. Looks like I made it. Above him, wings circled once in the sky. Ironblood. Moon raised his arm and smiled slightly. Thanks, Ironblood. The hawk cried back. Caw! Then soared higher into the clouds. Moon stepped inside the agency courtyard. Carts stood lined in rows. Men carried cargo across the yard. Warriors sharpened weapons nearby. The place buzzed with movement. A place built for long roads and dangerous journeys. Hey, you! A voice called out. Moon stopped, turning his head slightly. Where are you going? Moon didn't hesitate. I've come for a job. He casually pointed toward the building behind the man. The clerk looked at him, then sighed. The recruitment for wagoners is already over. Come back next time. Moon blinked. What? He stepped closer to the desk. I came from a place very far away. I can't just go back without anything. The clerk barely reacted, then shrugged. Then you should have come earlier. Moon's shoulders sagged slightly. his face twisted with frustration. After all that walking, all that trouble, he was too late. When will the next recruitment take place? The young warrior finally gathers the courage and approaches the escort agency. This place is where his dream begins. But the worker shakes his head. They aren't recruiting yet, not until more escort missions arrive. For a moment, the young man stands there silently. His chance seems to slip away before it even begins. But he refuses to leave. Instead, he bows his head. If that's the case, please let me help with odd jobs until then. His voice is firm, respectful, but filled with quiet determination. The worker studies him. Then suddenly, whoosh! The young man swings his arm with explosive speed. The air itself ripples from the motion. The old man's eyes widen slightly, and then he bursts into laughter. You really want to work here that badly, huh? The young warrior clenches his fist. His gaze sharpens. Yes, it's my dream to become a warden of the 1,000-mile escort agency. Those words carry weight, not arrogance, not pride, just pure determination. The worker strokes his chin, thinking. Then finally, he makes an offer. Well then, do you want to try working as a handyman? Handyman. Not a martial artist, not an escort, just someone who carries supplies, cleans equipment, and pushes a wheelbarrow. When the young warrior hears the word, his face freezes. Handyman? The worker tilts his head. Why? You don't want to? For a moment, the young man panics. This might be his only chance. He quickly bows again. No, I'll do anything to the best of my ability. Even if the job is small, even if the work is humble, this is still a step forward, and he refuses to let the opportunity slip away. Above them, sunlight pours down over the gates of the escort agency. A humble beginning, but every legend starts somewhere, and for this young warrior, his journey has finally begun. Morning light spills across the escort agency. Carts line up one after another. Horses stomp the ground, and merchants rush to prepare for departure. Another escort journey is about to begin. Among the workers, the young warrior moves quickly, lifting heavy crates, stacking them one by one, without hesitation, without complaint. Even the other workers stop to stare. His strength is far beyond that of an ordinary handyman. One of the workers walks over impressed. You're very strong. How long have you been working here? The young man wipes the sweat from his face and answers with a grin. 2 months, sir. The man nods, then asks another question. How many journeys have you joined? The young warrior pulls the rope tight around the cargo. 9 in total. 9 escort trips. Even as just a handyman, he never misses a chance to travel. The worker notices something. A bow, always hanging by the young man's side, even though he's only a laborer. I always see you with that bow. Do you want to become a warden that much? The young warrior suddenly bursts into laughter. No, I only carry this around like a family heirloom. His voice is light, carefree, but the bow never leaves his side, not even for a moment. Soon after, the caravan finally departs. Dozens of carts roll forward. Horses march in steady rhythm, and towering above them all, a massive mountain rises through the mist. The long journey has begun. Deep within the forest road, the wardens ride beside the caravan. One of them speaks firmly. Warden So, the fate of the agency depends on this journey, so please be careful. But the man beside him simply smirks. We've got over 30 experienced wardens. There's no need to worry. Their confidence echoes through the forest. Behind them, the caravan continues moving forward. Carts creak, horses breathe heavily, and sitting quietly among them, the young handyman watches the road ahead. silent, patient. Because sometimes the most dangerous moments arrive when no one expects them. As the caravan pushes deeper into the forest, the wardens begin discussing the route ahead. One of them turns to the captain. "Captain, which path would be the safest and the fastest?" The question hangs in the air, because the decision they make now could decide the fate of the entire journey. The senior warden speaks calmly. "If we continue south for another half day, we'll reach Mount Chonglim. From there, the safest path leads through Hanam. But there's a problem. That route will take 4 full days. 4 days on the road, 4 days exposed to danger." The captain narrows his eyes. 4 days is too long. "We'll go through this path. It's the only way to arrive on time." His voice is firm. The decision is made. But another warden hesitates. There's a problem with that route. His expression darkens. It's called the Tiger's Mouth Den. The last escort team that passed through there ran into serious trouble. Still, the man quickly shrugs it off. "There are other bandit dens near Chongju, but they're small. If we avoid those and pass through Tiger's Mouth Den, we should be fine." At least, that's what he believes. The captain's eyes narrow slightly. Is that so? He doesn't look completely convinced, but the caravan is already moving forward. Soon, the mountains begin to close in. Towering cliffs rise like jagged teeth. Mist drifts through the narrow canyon. This place looks exactly like its name, the Tiger's Mouth, waiting to swallow anything that enters. The captain raises his voice. "Stay on guard. All wardens, be alert. This is Tiger's Mouth Den. Keep your eyes open." The atmosphere instantly tightens. Even the horses seem restless. The caravan rolls forward slowly. Cartwheels rattle against the stone road. Rattle, rattle. Every sound echoes through the canyon. One of the wardens tries to lighten the mood. "Hey, Songmyung, this journey will also be interesting, don't you think?" But the man beside him doesn't smile. Instead, he answers bluntly. "It's better that way. You talk like you want the bandits to show up." The forest grows quiet again, and somewhere beyond the cliffs, danger may already be watching. One of the wardens laughs loudly. "Bandits? I'd actually appreciate it if they showed up." His grin widens. "At the first sight of them, I'll cut their heads off." The other wardens chuckle. Their confidence echoes through the canyon, but someone else isn't laughing. The young handyman sitting on the wagon suddenly stiffens. His eyes narrow. Something feels wrong. Very wrong. His senses sharpen. Bloodlust. He can feel it. Not one, not two, but dozens, hidden deep within the forest. 30 feet away. No, at least 50 men. Twice the number of the escort wardens. This isn't a small group of bandits. This is an ambush. Before anyone else realizes, the captain suddenly raises his hand. "Halt!" The caravan instantly stops. The wardens turn their heads, confused. Then they hear it. Explosion. Chaos. "Attack!" Bandits burst from the forest like a tidal wave, weapons raised, axes, blades, clubs. Dozens of them rush forward with bloodthirsty screams. The ambush has begun. "Protect the goods!" A warden roars as he draws his sword. The escort riders charge forward. Horses thunder across the road. Steel flashes in the misty air. The battle begins. From the front of the bandits' army, a massive figure steps forward. A towering man wearing a leopard skin cloak. A brutal grin stretches across his face. "Ha ha! So these are the wardens of the 1,000-mile escort agency?" The captain rides forward calmly. "Correct. We are members of the 1,000-mile. My name is Li Jin." The air between them grows heavy. 2 leaders, 2 forces, standing face to face. The giant bandit squints, then suddenly laughs. Ah, High Wind Blade Li Jin? So that's why I didn't recognize you at first. His grin becomes even more savage. I am the one who leads Tiger's Mouth Den, Geo Ryok Gun. And behind him, dozens of bandits tighten their grip on their weapons. The canyon is about to become a battlefield. The captain stares straight at the bandit leader. A man like that is not someone to underestimate. A man worthy of respect. His voice remains steady. So tell me, why have you blocked our path? The bandit leader bursts into laughter. Blocked your path? Ha, no, we're only here to greet you. Behind him, dozens of bandits laugh along. Their weapons glint under the forest light. The giant's bandit scratches the back of his head. You see, the rain from the other day destroyed all our fences. He sighs dramatically. So we're a little short on money. The meaning is obvious. This isn't a greeting. It's extortion. The captain slowly reaches into his sleeve. That must cost quite a lot to repair. A small ring of gold coins appears in his hand. The coins clink softly. Tingle, tingle. The bandit leader's eyes light up. Gold, exactly what he wanted. But the captain's gaze sharpens. Something is about to happen. Back at the wagon, the workers whisper nervously. Phew, they just charged in so suddenly. I thought there would be an all-out battle right away. Right? My heart is still pounding. The tension is unbearable, and everyone feels it. Suddenly, the young handyman's eyes widen. Wait, something is wrong, very wrong. Suddenly, the captain tosses the coin ring forward, but the moment it leaves his hands, he shouts a single command: "Freeze!" The bandit leader's expression changes instantly. His eyes widen, and the captain curses under his breath. Shit! Because in that very moment, the fragile balance between both sides has completely shattered.